Good afternoon here in beautiful Atlanta, Georgia. My name is John Finch, and we're at the mid-season Invitational. So I'd like to thank you all for joining us here today. Of course, I'm not going to be breaking down all this action alone, though, I might love to just get the chance to talk all that time. Instead, I am going to have here right next to me, Melissa Taka Posado. How are you doing today?
Feeling pretty good. Really excited to see how those matchups from yesterday they're going to be involving in today actually transgress.
That's a great point. This is day 2 of the mid-season invitational. We're still in that play-in bracket. This one was made up of SCL and SML teams, the top team from each region of the SCL, as well as the top 2 teams from each region of the minor league were battling it out yesterday, and we actually did get one of those console teams made it through over Flashpoint. Hype Unit are going to be that first setup against Armada.
And the guys are definitely excited for it, but later on we'll have Sanguine versus Simplicity, and both of them are going to be some really awesome matches, which of course is going to lead into the rest of this week, Finch.
That's exactly right. On day 3, we'll move into the actual mid-season invitational bracket, and your reward for making it through that grueling process will be either Rival or Team Dignitas. So I guess congratulations on that one. No one else has really figured out what to do against those teams, so maybe you can. But again, that's all going to be down the line. Right here in the immediate, we do have a very interesting matchup here. And yesterday, when Hype Unit beat Flashpoint, you can maybe put some type of asterisk on it because Flashpoint weren't at their top, at their very best. But I think Hype Unit showed us a lot of really genuine strength that will translate here up against Armada. Layers looked sick in their game. oBoronic looked great as well. Taco, how are you seeing this matchup?
There's a lot of team potential in this console unit for sure, and I think a lot of that is just riding on the back of just how much experience these players have. You have to keep in mind that these guys were the most recent world champions last year. Granted, Inbowned has joined this squad since the departure of Chapo, as Chapo was originally with them during that run, but having Bobby as a fill-in is definitely not a bad take at all.
No, not at all. A world champion in his own right with Myth Gaming, so even though it wasn't just last year, he's certainly been there himself. So, like you said, this isn't a team of randos that, kind of somehow randomly got their way in to this event. They've absolutely earned their spot, and I think they showed that yesterday in that 2-1, which by all accounts really could have been a 2-0 in my mind, Taco. Game 1, I think, was in Hype Unit's control, and an unforced error on their part, I think, is what caused that game to slip away from them. So I do have high expectations for this match in particular, and I do think there is some focus that we can talk about onto oBoronic in that mid lane, on some of his Zeus play, and if that same thing can translate here up against Meerkat and some of the tough Armada opponents.
One thing's for sure, oBoronic's going to have to be vigilant and versatile, I think, for Hype Unit to really succeed here today. We saw a decent amount of Zeus yesterday, but I'm certain that Armada is bound to have done a little bit of homework against Hype Unit. Can't really afford to undermine this team in the slightest. I think even oGryph in that dual lane, he was really popping off yesterday.
That's right. He didn't always get the most room, I feel like, to operate, but we know that he's someone who's certainly capable of it if he is able to find some space like that to work with. But we don't have to wonder what's going on there with oGryph. We'll have a chance to hear a little bit about his mindset. Totally is standing by with oGryph for the interview.
Thank you, Finch. I'm here with Griffin, the hunter for...
when we get back and we can...
Well, oGryph was maybe giving away too much information there. We had to
cut him off.
Yeah, that's right. oGryph can't be giving away Hype Unit secrets. Not too good. Totally question's a little bit too spicy for TV. Maybe that's what was going on. But again, thanks for being patient with us. We'll make sure we get everything sorted out. But Taco, oGryph is going to be an important one, I think, in this next matchup, right? He certainly is going to be one that I think needs some help. When I was watching their games yesterday, it really felt like they left him to his own devices in that dual lane a lot. And I just don't know if that's going to work up against someone of Snoopy's caliber. He could potentially get boxed out over there in that dual lane.
Or it could be exactly what oGryph is after. I mean, he definitely doesn't look like a hunter that's willing to shirk away from any sort of 1v1 opportunity. Snoopy would definitely be, I think, a good test of power between these hunters. Snoopy being a formidable opponent in his own right, of course.
Absolutely.
But one thing that I think is probably my favorite part about this Hype Unit squad is that yesterday it really felt like the team was doing an excellent job at really firing off on all cylinders.
I agree, man. I think Hype Unit, the thing that made them work was that they were strong from multiple positions, not just from one area, so you couldn't exactly narrow them down. Hopefully, we've been able to narrow everything down with this interview. We're going to give it one more try, get it back over to Tolly there with oGryph.
Thank you again, Finch. We'll try this again one more time. Griffin, the hunter for Hype Unit. You guys are obviously watching the patch notes. How is Layers feeling from all those Thor buffs?
I think Layers is feeling pretty excited about the Thor buffs, but I think as a team we are, because then we can flex it into other roles. And Layers probably the 5th best Thor on our team.
The 5th best Thor. Whoa, that's saying something, because he had a great performance yesterday on the Thor. So today you're facing the #1 North American minor league team. Yesterday you were against Flashpoint. What is the difference between these two teams?
I'd say their play styles, because Flashpoint definitely was more of a late game team, and they drafted around it and their hard carries. I think Armada probably plays more as a team, and they're probably closer to Armada since they're from NA. And
So you guys have a lot of support from the fans online. Even Heroin is saying how, some players are reminding them of Sinosure actually a little bit. How does that impact you guys today?
it feels great to, have like an org that backs us as much as Hype does, and like have as many people like want us to win, especially from console. I think it helps us, to know that we have people behind us.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Griffin, for your time. Best of luck against Armada. Back to you at the desk.
Yeah, great job there, Tully, and always a great chance to get to hear from Griff. And it's hard not to root for these guys, man. The last hope for console going forward, carrying all that weight on those shoulders, and I think these guys are absolutely capable of living up to it. But Taco, their opponents are no easy opponents at all. I mean, this team is largely thought of as, these players are all SPL caliber, right? I mean, most of them. I mean, SOT, Mass, Geno, Snoopy, they've all been there or around there at some point. I mean, is it enough? Is the carrying the console torch enough for them to beat this team?
I do feel as though Armada is still definitely a strong unit, even after the departure of Baskin and Scream from this team. So bringing on board Mask and SoloOrTroll, I mean, these guys are definitely fantastic players in their own right, but SoloOrTroll is definitely, he had that little bit with Splice earlier in the year where he substituted, in fact, during a LAN set. So it's not like he's entirely unfamiliar with the LAN or competitive play. SoloOrTroll's also competed here before for qualifying from the minor league previously. So I think that every single one of these players on Armada, probably the most troublesome factor here for Hype Unit is that they've all been there, done that at the same time as Hype Unit, except they've been doing it against the SPL for the most part.
It's a great point, Taco. I mean, this team is one that, I mean, I don't know that their bastion, the thing that they fall back on is tremendous team play. It feels like a lot of the time with Armada, what you see is just 5 guys that are just so good at Smite that it's overwhelming, it's smothering at times. And that's the thing that I'm worried about that might beat a team like Hype Unit, because they can, in some big moments, Hype Unit, I mean, struggle to make the right calls. And a team like Armada, they'll punish that.
My other concern is that Hype Unit also seems to rely fairly heavily on the early to mid-game portion, and that's the kind of strength that they look to play towards. But Armada, even reflecting back on their minor league split, I mean, they prioritize the early game probably more than any of the other teams in the SML. So trying to beat out Armada in that early to mid-game could be troublesome for Hype Unit.
Yeah, they played Thor solo, right? I mean, it's hard to imagine that that's a pick you do for the late game. So as you said, they're very happy to take picks that can kind of run over you very quickly, which is exactly the way that Armada likes to play. So it could very well be a battle of those first 10 minutes, right? And then who's ahead from there might just snowball it to victory and never give the other team a shot. There's a lot on Armada to try and look at. I think there is some time you have to spend in the mid lane as well. How can Meerkat play in particular is certainly going to be important in this next set. But again, we don't have to question or wonder. We have a chance to actually hear a little bit from Meerkat and what's going on with him. Tully is standing by with the interview.
Finch, I'm joined here by world champion Meerkat, mid player for Armada. You made quick work from OCG yesterday. Are you expecting the same results today against Hype Unit?
I'm not sure if we'll make as quick work, but I'm still very confident that we can win this 2-0.
So what did you notice about Hype Unit's performance yesterday? Some players on Twitter are comparing Layers to the likes of Sinosure, the Season 5 MVP.
I was pretty impressed by Layers. I thought Layers was pretty good. And he was playing Thor, and he was picking it early in the comps and making it work, which I thought was pretty impressive. And they seem to really like early pressure gods, but I'm still fairly confident.
Speaking of Thor, what do you think about those Thor buffs from the patch notes changes?
I actually do not know them, so I can't speak on that.
Well, you should go rewatch them because they're pretty impressive. I'm sure some of your players might actually want to play them. I'm looking at SoloOrTroll in that solo lane. So if you guys win today, would you rather face Sanguine or Simplicity, and why?
I would rather face Sanguine because we've played Sanguine a lot more. We know what they do, and I also think Sanguine is probably the worst team, especially when they have a sub. Still a really good team, but Simplicity is really good. So
thank you so much for your time, Meerkat. Best of luck against Hype Unit. Back to you at the desk.
Glad to get a chance to hear from Meerkat. Good analysis on Armada, lined up a lot with what we were thinking, which is that Hype Unit are going to be prioritizing some of these early picks. And I do like that they mentioned the Thor, and that was something that Hype Unit were willing to prioritize early in their drafts, because that means maybe that's something they can play to. Are they going to go back to that comfort for Layers again? Is that something Armada can exploit? Those are big questions.
All depends. I mean, if I'm Armada, I might just be looking to take away the Thor pick if I
Sure.
feel as though Layers is going to be a threat. With so many different members on Armada that are capable of playing it, I wouldn't even put it past Geno to play Thor support.
Sure.
I'll throw it that way.
No, I'm right there with you. This is such a versatile team, Armada, and that's one of those things that we're going to have to look at in this matchup, right, is how do these picks and bans evolve? It won't be quite as much as a 5-game set, but whoever loses in game 1 had to make their adaptations very, very quickly in game number 2 without giving too much up. And that's something we didn't get to zoom in on enough, I feel like, on day 1, because there were some mismatches there. But here today, it's going to be highlighted, I think, in a pretty major way.
You can't afford to make mistakes against Armada. This is a squad that will indefinitely punish you, and you might not be able to recover from it either. I mean, multiple circumstances in the past where Armada has possibly slipped from being in the lead of pressure, and then the enemy team will slip up just for a second, and that's all the time frame that Armada needs in order to just smother and strong-arm the map away from you.
And Inbound, to talk about the supports here a little bit, he plays a bit differently than some of the other supports we see. He doesn't always go right to the solo lane at the start and do that 2v2 that sort of developed over there. He'll harass in the jungle a little bit. Do you think that versatility would help, or do you think it potentially hurt them? Or how important is that support and where they are in the early game?
I think against Armada, it's going to be up to Hype Unit to kind of just match where Armada support chooses to go. If Geno
Sure.
starting in solo, then Inbound should probably be in solo. If Geno starting in duo or mid lane, well, that's probably where Inbound should be as well. Don't let Armada get the free one-up over you, because if you let them start with the pressure, they're going to maintain it.
That's a great point. Armada's not the kind of team to let that pressure go, but we are into the picks and bans for game number 1 on day 2 of the mid-season invitational. Armada will be in that first pick spot, and so far throughout season 6, this entire first phase, first pick has been a bit of a bully position, because there's so much that's valuable right now that you can let a certain amount through or kind of force the second pick to ban certain things, and then you can grab up some of those meta picks or even ban away some of the more unique picks to the team on the opposite side. So I'm very interested to see how Armada will use it. A Muzen Cobb, though, this is a ban that you just ban against most people. A Muzen Cobb, very good right now.
Not looking to take any chances, and it's just too flexible. Whether Hype you do want to try playing it in mid or duo, doesn't really matter. Armada just don't want to have to try and deal with it, and they're not looking to prioritize it, so just strip it. But King Arthur, Merlin, all still
Yep.
on the board, and going to be tough not taking that Merlin away from Meerkat.
It is. That's going to be very scary. So Hype Unit almost certainly have to ban it here. You'd think that you don't want to give that one over to someone like Meerkat, who, if you saw some of our SPL level players tweeting yesterday, Meerkat's fearsome, man. Just a dominant force in the middle lane, Taco. Just can't let that guy get Merlin. There's just no chance he'll win.
Something about those collegiate world champions, man. I mean,
think that's
just
what it is, yeah.
tough to tackle.
Kronos, though, does get banned. That makes sense for Hype Unit. They're taking away all those magical ADCs. It just does mean that you have to ban Merlin. But this is what I'm talking about with the potential to bully from first pick. They ban away the Jingwei. She is strong, yes, but not as strong as Kronos or Merlin. So they can flex there and then secure Merlin for themselves and put Hype Unit in a tough spot.
Seeing the Merlin already selected, though, for Armada tells me that Hype Unit should just be looking for a heavy control composition. Get a comp that can easily interrupt the Merlin or harass him. Don't let him have the capability to just flicker freely out of combat. He needs some type of maintained pressure on top of him, and Erlang Shen is feeling like the right spot to start here for Hype Unit, whether support or jungle, possibly even a solo lane pick here for Wolves. Definitely a flexible option here. That Hachiman, not so much though. Pretty sure that's intended for Gryph.
I would think so too. Layers played this Erlang Shen, I believe, in game 1 of their set, right, yesterday up against Flashpoint, and he got up to a monster start with it. So you're exactly right to describe Erlang Shen as sort of this early pressure pick that maybe can stop Merlin from getting to that point where he is so dominant like we normally see him in. And then the Hachiman just a strong hunter. But Serqet being picked up, this is interesting. I feel like we don't see nearly as much of her lately.
This is a terrifying 3-pick selection already, though, from Armada. Jormungandr and Serqet screams backline harassment. And
Sure.
I am very inclined to believe that Mask is going to be looking to pilot that Serqet, but there is some possibility that it's Geno on Serqet support. The only thing, it's just the fact that Jormungandr and Serqet are so interchangeable as support pick options for Geno, or you know, like I mentioned, Mass possibly wanting the Serqet for himself, but it's just that there's so much dive already in Armada. I have some big concerns about how this Hachiman manages to live through it all, because that's probably going to be one of the prime targets.
It is something that Gryph likes to play, though, this Hachiman, so I trust him to feel comfortable on it. The mounted archer gives him some safety. It's just that at a certain point, it doesn't matter how comfortable you are on it. Serqet does Serqet things, right? So this goes back to the point I brought up way back at the beginning. How much help is Gryph going to get over there in the duo lane? If he is going to be under constant pressure, then Layers has to be there. Or maybe you just draft someone like Geb for Inbound. That'll certainly have Gryph's back.
Heavy risk first reward, though, for this Geb. Yes, it can pay off hugely and be an immediate shutdown option for the Serqet because of those Geb shields and cleanses, but what I'm looking at is how well is this hype unit going to fare in the early game against what
start,
Armada
yeah.
have opted for. There's a lot of clear already between Merlin, Jormungandr, and Serqet as is, and not only that, but these are also gods that are fairly difficult to contest if they look for buff invades, and Geb is not a Guardian that tends to fare super well against those early game pressure matchups.
That's a great point. Deathbane from Serqet. Jormungandr also has a really good job clearing out those camps. Merlin, too, can do so safely from range a lot, so it definitely could be tough for them if there are a lot of fights in the jungle around those buffs. As we move into the secondary ban phase now, Hype Unit taking an eye towards Ratatoskr, so they don't buy that this Serqet is from Mast. And Ratatoskr is something that Mast likes to play, and it gives them a ton of early pressure, excuse me, everybody. If Hype Unit is worried about the early game, then yeah, ban away the Ratatoskr.
I'm also thinking maybe even Raven as another secondary ban option here for Hype Unit. It's also something that Mask really likes to play, and on top of that, it would add on top to the Jormungandr Serqet dive potential that's already so thick for Armada.
And that's if they're willing to all-in bet that the Serqet is support. We do see her there, I feel like, a little bit more often than we do in the jungle role, so you can feel pretty comfortable there. And Geno is someone who likes to play aggressive. I mean, during this phase in the SML, he had to fight for a chance to even get to be in the fight. So often Scream and Baskin would just win the game for them right away. So certainly no stranger to playing some aggressive stuff.
Hey, it's been a while since Meerkat's had his chance to shine, man, in that mid lane, okay? When you're on a team with Scream and Baskin, it's tough to make yourself look good.
It is tough,
Those guys are just doing it all. No surprises, though, for Armada, taking away the Habwa and the Zeus, both gods that oBoronic had great displays on yesterday. So it makes sense that they want to take away some of the possible early game pressure options that Hype Unit might have been looking for to counteract this lack of pressure from the Geb.
Well, now oBoronic has to go a little bit deeper into the god pool as Achilles comes through for Wolves, and I feel like we haven't quite focused enough on Wolves. There's, I imagine it's going to this whole lane, maybe some flex potential there, but almost certainly for Wolves, and he is a dominant force on console, and so giving him an aggressive pick, that lets him play right into his personality, into his playstyle. I love this.
Beware the shadows.
Chernobog, though, from Armada. Snoopy, probably one of the few hunters that I've seen as of late trying to utilize this Chernobog and his global capabilities, but that really does solidify the thought process in my mind, Finch, that this is all about early game pressure for Armada, as well as looking to control the mid and late game thanks to this Humbat Serqet. It's going to be really tough for Hype Unit to not have a bunch of beads burners because Geb can only shield one person.
It's a great point. It's so much control here from Armada and an ability to rotate between the Jormungandr and the Chernobog. They're going to be all over the map. We know that Armada likes to be aggressive right from the get-go, and this allows them to do exactly that. But Hype Unit have saved oBoronic's pick, and I feel like they need something, perhaps with some safety up against a composition like
Morrigan.
this. Yeah, Morrigan could be a strong pick, but also a bit risky. I don't know if they want to do that in this situation. You like her here?
I would love to see a Morrigan pick here from oBoronic. I'm just not super certain on it actually coming through. Gonna go for the safer option instead, I believe, with that Vulcan. The intention here, I think, to try and just clear farm, clear out waves as quickly as possible. And if you ever have any worries about contesting a buff or even the objectives on the map, you've got Earthshaker.
Vulcan can certainly get that done here for the teams. I do want to make sure we cover it one more time. Hype Unit is entirely on keyboards and mouse here for this set, so that's the way you can expect their input methods to be coming through. But with this Vulcan to round out this draft, where do you see Hype Unit, just based on the way they've drafted, stacking up to all this pressure from Armada?
I'm not going to lie, Finch. Hype Unit's going to have to really watch their early game positioning. I think that's what it's all going to boil down to, because if Hype Unit can survive the early to mid-game portion, then I think they're looking pretty sound in the mid to late. While Armada has some decent control with the Humbats, it is a relatively low crowd control composition from Armada. Not a ton of reinitiation potential there.
I do want to point out as well, the Thor was not selected here in this match, picked or banned, so that might still be in the back pocket for Layers. If this Erlang Shen does or doesn't work out, we could potentially see that one later on as well too. So despite how many strong picks he showed us yesterday, still kind of keeping a little bit of stuff under wraps here with C.
Yeah, Layers, I think, just looking to start off strong with this Erlang, and it's fair to say.
Well, let's get ready to get into the action. Armada versus Hype Unit, game number 1. Casters, take it away.
John Finch, and of course, Taco, thank you for your work. Tom Battinger and Ryan Agrobally on the mic today. Doug LeBlanc on the 1s and 2s, bringing you the best observation in the business. And Hype Unit, the best console team in the business, it may seem, as they're the only ones that have made it past day number 1, and here in day number 2, are trying to climb the mountain that is Armada.
Man, they only have to win 2 more games in order to start playing against SPL teams tomorrow. I mean, they've got the finals later on if they do make it there, but that is just for seeding in the main bracket. Really, this is the one that counts.
2 games sounds like a really small amount. Just win 2 and you're there.
Yeah, just win 2 against Mask and Geno and Snoopy and Meerkat and SoloOrTroll.
Which, you know, it's interesting because this is a minor league team because there's only 10 teams in the Pro League. Mask has been the best jungler, full stop, at certain points in his career. Snoopy, for my money, is a SMITE Pro League level player, better than some players at that level. And then SOT, one of the more promising young talents, I think, in the scene. Across the way, though, you know, these guys are defending world champions of their own particular league, so these guys are no slouches. Wolves makes people tremble in his own league. And Layers, I mean, high praise from Pro League players across the way, talking about Layers yesterday.
Yeah, Layers played lights out, man. He was the star of this team yesterday. And normally it's guys like oBoronic and Wolves, and Layers is certainly a star for this team all the time, don't get me wrong. But he doesn't always take the leading role. He's always the second in command in every situation, which is something to be said. Well, watch out, Inbound's in trouble.
Oh, Bobby's walking into pain, and Geno picks up the first kill. The support takes out the support. And Inbound, he does have some Pro League experience, but that's what it looked like. Just a day late and a dollar short. First blood to Armada.
From his former teammate as well. Geno was his teammate on that Luminosity squad. Really beautiful double Cobra's Kiss from Geno sets that up. It's so hard to fight against Jormungandr at that point in the game. Really, at a lot of different points in the game in the solo lane, just a lot of base damage on those abilities, and then the basic attacks can't get body blocked by the minions, and so even though Inbound's in the middle of that whole minion wave, doesn't really end up helping him too much. Those Jormungandr autos able to pierce through very easily.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't want to say, you know, caught by surprise by the amount of damage, because Jormungandr's been out, but sometimes that happens. You're just like, oops, I'm at 25%, I'm good. Oh, I'm at 15, and I'm very not good. And that's what we kind of see going over there. But you were talking about Layers' prowess yesterday, and I think that's very important to the selection of character here. Erlang Shen picked up. I think for Hype Unit, what they're good at is playing the early game, and if they're going to find a level above Armada, it's going to be in the early game. So empower your jungler.
He's in a bit of trouble here. Still he has the shell and needs every bit of it in order to stay alive. Very close, though. A little bit too patient, I would say, with that Cobra's Kiss, and or the Deathbane rather, already used it too before that fight started. But yeah, I mean, you're totally right. Layers is going to have to be the conductor of this team if they want to find victories against a squad like Armada. But for me, the biggest player that has to step up for Hype Unit is Wolves.
Thank you.
I mean,
yes.
Wolves yesterday did his job, but didn't wow me. And a lot of times, watching Wolves in his natural habitat, so to speak, you get wowed. And look, the level of competition is higher here for sure, but I think that what we've seen from Wolves in the past shows me that he's got potential at this sort of level. I'm excited to see if he can reach that today.
Well, going back to when you were a player in the early stages of the console scene, Wolves was kind of bursting on, and I remember that Wolves playing next to Transonics, and his first LAN was not his best performance. And this is something that we don't really talk about with Wolves anymore or at all because it's so many years past it, but, you know, stage fright, whatever you want to call it. I think that definitely came into play yesterday. Got to assume, that he's a little bit more comfortable here And at least that's what I think many fans are hoping, because Wolves is an integral part of this team. And for Hype Unit to win yesterday with him kind of in third gear is real smooth. If Wolves steps up, Layers plays the way he did yesterday, and oBoronic continues to go quadra kills, triple kills, which is a tall task against Armada, admittedly. I mean, this team is it's capable. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yes, there is some history, I think, of Hype Unit players not being super great on land. Layers, notoriously bad when he first came into the scene. But underneath that Astral Authority banner, Wolves really ascended to be probably the best land player on console. And, of course, in Layers became a premier land player as well. All very, very quickly. Got to give shout-outs to my boy Chach for helping him with that. So that doesn't really concern me. I don't think that's an issue for this squad at all. I mean, they've got more land experience than Meerkat has.
Yeah, I think this is a different arena, and day number 1 was all they needed. And luckily for them, they toppled over that day number 1, and here kind of clinging on in the early game. First Blood goes the other direction, as well as a couple of other pieces of gold. Totem of Coups leaning towards Armada 2-1. But I think as the Achilles starts to pick up, and again, knowing your own gameplay style is very important. Achilles isn't the latest game of characters.
No, he's not the top pick, top ban right now. Not that he used to be, at least a couple weeks ago. But after some balance adjustments, certainly got a lot worse. I don't hate it here against Jormungandr. I mean, you get some sustain. He's impossible to miss. He can't get away from you, so that certainly helps.
Inbound could be in trouble as SOT makes his way from the right-hand side. There's Fear No Weevil on a mask, and Inbound one more time, isolated and killed down by the mid lane mage. Geno trying to escape. oBoronic needs to turn around, can't find the shot, and Mask continues to follow. Wolves surrounded.
Wow, they forgot about Geno. They're just leaving him there to start backing. SoloOrTroll's going to be able to get out of danger with his own ultimate, and Geno is absolutely gone. Hype Unit, you can tell that the communication's there because they are target switching very quickly. They are looking at the same targets. But I think in that situation, I mean, Geno's 3 got interrupted. He doesn't have his 1. He doesn't have his ult. That's a free kill.
That's the third time I've seen Geno wiggle out of trouble. If he's on any other selection outside of Serqet, Hype Unit, it's 2-3 right now, probably. Definitely 2-2. A little bit smooth there from the support on Armada, and I absolutely give that to him. When, seeing Geno back behind the rock that oBoronic's in front of seems kind of ridiculous, but you've got to remember, once a Serqet leaves your FOV, she's gone. There's no way you're chasing a Serqet down. Now, does oBoronic know he can throw a meatball and kill her? No, but you assume she's out. I'm not going to hold him for that one, man.
Man, unfortunate there for Gryph, who loses both the beads and the ultimate. Probably could have gotten away with just the purification beads. That what not great timer control there on how long Geno how long ago Geno uses ultimate.
Sure.
That's where you have to be able to rely on your teammates, understand that internal cooldown. Basically, really, your teammate can't communicate that to you. You have to keep in mind, hey, when did they say the Serqet ult was? How long ago was that? And how long is Serqet ult cooldown? And that's a lot that you have to keep track of. MOBAs are really hard in order to play at the top level. And Geno, or Gryph rather, not having his ultimate or his beads up means that he's in danger of getting solo now by Snoopy. Snoopy has a big power spike in that Transcendence 2, so he's in a really good spot to try and play aggressively up against Gryph, who's going for a slower Devourer's Gauntlet build.
Geno looking around at where Hype Unit is, wanting to make sure. That's kind of Geno making sure Hype Unit are doing their homework. If you are not on, and that is one of the things that separates, I think, the great teams from the good teams, the absolute highest end teams, is your buff timers. If you are 1 second late to your red buff, Armada will steal it. And so Geno right there putting the goggles out, trying to see around the corner, and able to pick that up. And here you go. Purple buff goes to Armada. 1 second late was Hype Unit. You saw Inbound coming over, Gryph was shading, just a little bit late. That's all you need.
You heard Simplicity in their post-game interview yesterday say that Nemesis just wasn't on time for a lot of the buff timers, and that was the big difference in that set.
Here's a big play, though, for Armada. 1-2 punch. Snoopy from the left side picks up 1. Wolves does answer back and gets Hype Unit on the board, assisted by the jungler. But that's the wrong side of the map, homie. Gold Fury coming next for Armada. Gryph is here, but he's alone.
Does have his ultimate, though. Gold Fury's getting down pretty low. Gryph doesn't have his beads, so he has to be careful. In fact, he's going to ult away again as Gold Fury will go Armada's way. Beautiful timing from the SML boys. I mean, oBoronic's purification beads were up in 3 seconds, I think, whenever that gank happened.
Yep.
Near the mid lane. Inbound is clearly the focus.
Yes.
He's early game Geb. I mean, you kill early game Geb like you eat cornflakes for breakfast. I mean, everyone does it, right? But you have to be wary of that. You have to be ready.
Wow. Wolves getting soloed by SoloOrTroll. That's a rough one. Wolves a little bit overextended on the Achilles. The build just now being kind of the shield being finished. Not as tanky. And don't forget, the shield is physical props.
He actually had the shield first and didn't have boots, so we couldn't run away.
Oh, there it is.
From that kind of chase down by SoloOrTroll. Wolves, they got the kill on that right-hand side, and then Wolves just kind of overstays to try and get Solo's blue. He got the blue, but the fact that he has to give up a lot of that golden experience right back to SoloOrTroll certainly hurts. And Jorm doesn't get hurt by losing blue buff nearly as much as a lot of other solo lane gods. His auto attacks do quite a bit. He is fairly mana intensive. You can see that he's already down below half, but that's okay.
Missed opportunity there, or a missed execution there from Hype Unit, I should say. Inbound goes to the ultimate in the mid lane. Strips 2 pieces, or at least 1 peds, but able to find their way out before Oboronic lands. Snoopy to the sky. Inbound one more time is the focus, and just popped like a balloon. And Snoopy, the one with the needle. Number 3 for the Hunter, and number 1 for the Jungler. Mask stage right takes care of business and puts another player down. Wolves for the second time.
Yeah, we saw Inbound use that ultimate in the mid lane a little bit earlier on with Geno playing aggressively. He kind of preemptively, through kind of conditioning almost by Armada, they conditioned him to assume he was getting all in every time Geno was near him.
Yep.
Wasn't the case. He lost his ultimate, and there, can't stand on that purple without your ultimate. Inbound just caught out in positioning.
Gold Fury's down, so the next objective is Armada. Internalizing the old adage, the stuff after the stuff. They haven't really looked for a team fight without an objective after it. So, obviously, I'm a fan. 10 minutes in. We're going to ding number 11 in about 6 seconds, and it is a 6,000 gold lead for Armada. I'll be honest, I really thought the early game would be a little bit more Hype Unit centric, but Layers not having the presence he had yesterday.
Well, it's not just where is Layers supposed to go is the big thing, because Snoopy's had pressure in the duo lane. This Chernobog pick gets pressure very well in the early game. I think it's a great selection for him that allows him to rotate around. The Snoopy Bog is something that everyone should fear for sure.
Yep.
But this mid support combo of Vulcan Geb is basically conceding mid lane pressure, and I don't like that at all. Against Armada, they go Merlin, great mid lane pressure and fight potential. Serqet, all kill potential in the early game. I mean, it's just not matched very well with what Armada drafted. I don't like this draft from Hype Unit in that mid support. You can't let Inbound get behind against a team like Armada. And look, Bobby's gonna play Bobby's style. That is fine. He's never going to be that super passive sort of guy. You have to, and that's a part of his game plan. That's fine. But you just can't give him tools that don't fit that. And he played Geb well yesterday, I believe. But clearly, Sanguine wasn't doing as good of a job as punishing that. Armada's going to punish you.
I completely agree, and here's Exhibit F. 1-2 kills for Armada as Meerkat gets Oboronic on the bottom side as well. Layers going to sit under the tower safely. The only reason Layers is safe is because Armada's diving in Tier 2. And they realize they're a little bit ahead of where they should be. Snoopy takes care of the Tier 1 tower on the left. And Armada just surging forward, man. This is a big deal. And like we said, I'm looking at the choices. It's less about Layers is doing poor or Inbound is doing, and again, the draft. When I look at Geb in Inbound, it doesn't click to me. I'm sure he can play his game. Like you said, he played well yesterday. If we see Geb and Achilles switch positions, do things change?
Maybe. I mean,
because Oboronic's Vulcan is absolutely worth its salt.
Sure, Oboronic Vulcan's good. I just don't think Vulcan is particularly strong in the mid lane meta right now. I think that early pressure is a little bit too important.
I agree.
You're splitting too many waves. That you can kind of get away with these late game mages at the beginning parts of the season because people weren't triple splitting mid waves every time. Now they are, and so I just don't think you can get away with these sort of hyper carries. You need the ability to be able to fight without a whole lot of farm.
Geno's going to be fighting right now. Good spot for a Hype Unit, but the Serqet just too slippery, and Geno just gets right away. That has been the major thorn in the side. It's been Hype Unit losing because this Geb Vulcan has no pressure, and then on top of that, Geno brings pressure and gets away every chance Hype looks at him.
Yeah, Geno has really just decimated them. Looks like SoloOrTroll doesn't want to give up a fight in the mid lane. Snoopy could join him, but instead is going to drop down onto Griff and force him back.
1v1. He has Gold Fury taken. And an almost 10,000 gold lead here at 14 minutes. Very dire here for the guys on Hype unit. Griffin forced out. Just a couple of basics traded the other way. He's 2 levels down. oBoronic is going to sit down for the 3rd time this game. And the mid lane focus one more time. Wolves has shaded over from the solo lane, but it looks more of a deterrent than anything else. And SOT slinks back again into the enemy jungle.
It looks like Armada may sneak out this speed buff timer as well. Layers is hanging around, and he needs to hit level 12 as soon as possible. They need some sort of blink initiation onto someone without purification bead, something to get the ball rolling right now for Armada, because the ball is sitting in the closet right now, stagnant.
It's a little deflated.
Oh no!
All the wind taken out of Wolves' sails.
What? If you're gonna play Geb, shield the man. Did he use his shield on nothing?
Yeah.
Bobby's focused on clearing the wave, man. That, I don't know. That's a real bad look. You can't be making that play and expect to play against SPL teams.
It's rough. Geno's going to jump to the back line again. Ultimate onto oBoronic. Inbound. Slowly turns around and finds a shield. It's very interesting. Inbound is the poster child. He's the front man. He's the guy that makes his way into the Pro League, right? But frequently, I mean, I don't know. Absolutely dropping the ball here. Picks, teamwork, like there's a lot that goes into it. But I am looking at Inbound. This has to change both gameplay and the pick selection. Red buff snatched away one more time. And Armada, they've passed that 10,000 gold mark. And this is really where things get pretty tough for the opposition.
Yeah.
Hype unit have to find a way back into it. And to be fair, oBoronic will be that way. The ultimate, once oBoronic gets a couple of levels here, will threaten every single Fire Giant, every single Gold Fury, and that could be Hype's way back into it. Not if Wolves walks into this.
Good ultimate from oBoronic, does some damage, but Wolves no ultimate. My man's level 13, trying his best out here.
Oh, the monkey!
Mask got him.
Oh, the monkey and the worm. It's a menagerie of animals here. oBoronic gets knocked up. SOT, good shell from the side, but Snoopy picks up the kill, assisted by SOT. Another one. 5 for the Jormungandr. 1 death and 6 assists. 11 out of 15 kills for Armada. Have the solo laner's name all over it. Top player damage as well. Listen, man, SoloOrTroll is fun to watch right now.
He's playing really well so far this land. Top damage by a mile, basically, on this Yorm. Fire Giant's going to go down with ease for Armada. I'm just, to be honest with you, Tom, I'm a little surprised at Hype Unit's lack of prep for this set. I mean, if they really felt like they were going to win, they should have expected Armada to come out and be their opponent. Yep. And even after winning, you've got a whole day to prep. Armada clearly did. Their bans of Habwa and Zeus against oBoronic in the second phase were very strong. They clearly did their research. I mean, he didn't even play Zeus yesterday, but that's something that he's known for having a great pick of. This, or no, he did play Zeus yesterday, I guess. But either way, I think the point still stands.
Exactly.
Armada has played the exact same team comp for 14 weeks now. They put Snoopy on something that's going to get him pressure, and he's going to stand at your purple every spawn. Geno's going to sit around mid and rotate to help him whenever it's time. Their jungler, whether it's Scream or Mask, is going to play something with some amount of control, because Geno's not playing with control.
And Solo.
And Solo's going to play whatever Solo's going to play. Who cares?
Either
because he's not getting help.
Yeah.
He's on an island. You know, they play around Snoopy on the left-hand side, and they're leaving Griff on this island, and my man is drowning. I mean, he has been bullied the whole game, and there's been no rotations to do.
Mid lane fight, Meerkat lined up. Aegis too late. Mask helps out. Wolves can't get out of there. SoloOrTroll again. Mask with the Goomba stop up front. Takes one down. And guess who's diving the mages? It's SoloOrTroll. 2 in a row for the big man Snake. He'll shy away from number 3. But the damage already done. There's no structures in the left lane. Nor the mid lane. The right lane has 1 tower left. It's 18 minutes. Armada have a kill for each of those minutes, and the left Phoenix is already dead.
Left Phoenix didn't take long at all. I imagine mid will be right behind it. Snoopy's build actually does a lot of damage to these towers because this Jotun's Wrath alongside all the power from this Transcendence. Kind of building Chernobog a little bit differently.
Kill number 2 there for Hype Unit. Definitely want to shout that one out. Griff gets one before he goes down. But it's 20-2. To go back to what you were saying, man, I agree. It's real fun to watch Armada pretend to be aloof and pretend to not care and pretend to show up to class and go, you guys, oh, there was a project due today. Oh, we didn't pay attention. We didn't do it. And then pull out the poster board and 7 spreadsheets because this is a team that wants to pretend like they're super cool doing nothing. But they've obviously done the homework. They've obviously watched the VODs. They obviously know how to take care of it. Hype Unit, I'll never sit up here and say Hype Unit didn't prepare. I'll never sit up here and take that away from them. But it's not being shown in the game. And at the same time, I mean, Hype Unit, play your own game. Before we got into today, I was talking to anybody that would listen, as I usually do, and I was saying, Hype Unit can hang for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and then the late game Armada, they're dominant. It'll probably come the other way. I'm very surprised to see how quickly this slanted in Armada's direction.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's just, to me, it's no secret the way that Armada plays.
Exactly.
SMITE. And I'm surprised that Hype Unit has not picked and played around it a little bit better. Now it's a best of 3.
Yep.
They lost game 1 yesterday,
yep.
So they were in control of that game as well. So I don't know. I think that Hype Unit needs to kind of revisit the drawing board. You've got to help Griff. I mean, clearly you just cannot give him a matchup like this. And look, it's not like Armada just accidentally stumbles into picking pressure gods for Snoopy. They're going to do it no matter what you pick or ban. He's going to find a matchup that he likes in that lane. You just have to be ready for it.
Geno blinks over to the left side and controls 2 different carries and takes care of one of them. Mask is going to deal with the other. Meerkat stole that from the support. Nice knockup from Inbound. But the right Phoenix already tasting dirt.
Geno is nasty, man. That blink was filthy. Armada looking equally good. Double for Mask. And they close this one out nice and clean.
Inbound still alive, but the Titan not so lucky right now. Just like that, game number 1. And it looks like just another day at the gym here for Armada. Hype Unit have a lot to work on for game number 2 if they want to continue on.
Yeah, man. I mean, this duo lane for Armada, I mean, SoloOrTroll got a lot of hype yesterday, and for good reason. He's playing really well. But for me, when Armada looks like at their strongest, it's because Snoopy and Geno are just carrying games. And that game basically felt over from minute 4 or so because Geno got really ahead and gets the first blood over in the solo lane. He was able to just make plays all across the map on this Serqet. And the interesting thing to me is that Inbound and Geno play fairly similar styles most of the time. Inbound likes to play gods like Serqet and Achilles and Erlang, Shen, and these aggressive assassins or warriors in the early game. Give him that style because the Geb will not work.
Geno played jungle too, and it was great. Armada take game number 1. Hype Unit have stuff to work on. We'll break it down on the desk.
A sobering loss there for Hype Unit in game number 1, but a dominant performance from Armada, clearly showing they've got aspirations to go deep in this tournament. Taco, what was your read on this one? Because it really did look exactly like our caster was saying, like from early on in this game, Armada just had a stranglehold.
Geno just got the snowball off. That's really all it boils down to. And Inbound, while I understand the concept behind the Geb, I think that Hype Unit might have gotten a little bit too much in their own heads for game 1 here. I feel like they drafted with too much respect given towards Armada and trying to really buckle down on that late game potential without really prioritizing the early game like is their strength. It's what they've been playing to the best in the past.
It was tough to watch too because it was so much early pressure for them. This is that first death that Inbound took off a really nice Cobra's Kiss from Geno, but it just continued on like this where they would go find this Geb and bully him out. They got a double kill for Snoopy in middle lane not too long after this off of him rotating over on that Chernobog, and that set up for them to go right over to the Gold Fury. And Taco, what I noticed was that they were all pushed up to their tower, hyping it from like minute 1. It was so easy for Armada to invade buffs because they knew where everyone was. There was nothing for them to worry about moving around the jungle.
Well, Armada, they drafted and played their composition to a T. I mean, all they needed for their execution was to be at those buffs in the early game and make sure they're looking for at least the challenges, because as long as you're there contesting, you can either get the buff or you can look for kills surrounding that, or even just forcing backs early on so that players are missing out on farming experience. But ultimately, it just came down to the fact that Armada had such a strong early game composition, and Hype Unit did not draft to deal with that in the slightest.
And that is half of it, but there was execution errors in there too from when I saw Taka. There was another fight that happened early on where Geno goes way beyond the fight, like back towards the enemy speed buff, and they kind of leave him back there. No one goes to chase him out. Instead, they all rotate towards SoloOrTroll and this Jormungandr, who still has his ultimate, and Jormungandr just leaves, and Geno backs at the back of the fight. I mean, it's some of it's execution, and some of it is also, like you said, the drafts, and maybe putting themselves in a spot where they can't play for the early game correctly. But I think there's a good bid for Hype Unit to clean up, and unfortunately they have to do it so quickly. I mean, it's a 3-game set, so they got to do it right here and now.
And that's the problem here, Finch, is that this is essentially asking for Hype Unit to do a complete 180 for what they were looking for in Game 1, which was clearly wanting to have some form of control in the mid to late game, but you have to make it there first. And up against Armada, that might just not be possible if you're opting for low-pressure gods like the Geb. Armada are just going to surround those low-pressure picks and completely punish them. That's all that we saw in the early game. Mass was just nonstop throwing out Fear No Evils onto Inbound, and it was typically leading into 1 pick at first and then 2 or 3 later on, just because Hype Unit usually try to respond to salvage their teammates' lives. And that's another circumstance that I think Hype Unit should also keep in the back of their mind. Sometimes you just have to cut your losses short.
And I don't think that they drafted too badly in terms of lane pressure, right? I mean, Achilles can get lane pressure, right? I mean, that's not so impossible to do. The Vulcan and the Merlin matchup is rough. I mean, Hachiman should be able to hold his own, maybe not immediately, but eventually. But they were getting a little bit outclassed in lane 2, and that left Layers, their real early game bastion on this Erlang Shen, with nowhere to go, nowhere to gank. And that really kind of caused the whole thing to implode. I mean, without Layers able to get them off to a good start, I don't think they had anyone who was really that dominant before the mid game.
No, if you're going to go for the Erlang in the early game as your first pick selection as well, you have to keep in mind, Hype Unit drafted that god with confidence, and yet Layers essentially got 0 usage out of the Erlang. Typically, you can expect at least a little bit of warrior pressure, maybe even a couple of red buff attempts or speed buff invades, and that just never really came to fruition here for Hype Unit. The Erlang and the Vulcan just could not find the synergy necessary with so much side lane spillage funneling into mid.
That's exactly right, and that's really what ended up hurting them for that double kill. AMC still here on the board if Hype Unit want to grab that one. That was the first ban by Armada last time, but because Armada are in the second pick, they don't have that same option. Hype Unit, on the other hand, take the Merlin away, so Meerkat has to play something different, and of course, no surprise, the AMC absolutely does get locked in first. But SoloOrTroll goes right back to that Jormungandr that he actually soloed Wolves on with at one point during that game too, when Wolves stuck around a little bit too long. That could potentially be trouble.
Oh no, and the Erlang Shen's gonna come through here. I have a heavy suspicion that that might be intended for Mask. It's certainly a pick that he loved picking up throughout his time in the minor league, so would not be surprised to see him try to run it here today. And the Jormungandr as well. Even with the Erlang added on top of it, it can still be fairly ambiguous here from Armada. Like I mentioned, I'm expecting the Erlang for Mask, but there's still a possibility it ends up elsewhere.
Yep, I think it could go to Geno pretty easily. I mean, he just got through playing the Serqet last game, so there's certainly some flex potential there. It could even go over to Solo. We'll have to see, but I think most likely, as you said, it'll be Jorm for SoloOrTroll, Erlang Shen going to Mast. And now the pressure goes on to Hype Unit. Remember, last time they prioritized the Hachiman for Gryph, but that didn't quite work from in lane. I wonder if maybe he'll try and go a different direction as Serqet gets taken out by Hype Unit.
My only concern for Serqet here, though, is that there's already a decent bit of interrupt from Armada. Jormungandr and Erlang both have fairly consistent ways to prevent Serqet from looking to just completely collapse onto a backline or onto a carry outright. So if the Serqet is meant for inbound, which I'm suspecting it might be, then I think that could be a solid take for Hype Unit, but it's still not going to be easy, especially not with Meerkat picking up that Poseidon, getting those cripples to just try and further restrict this Serqet.
And this is interesting. Hype Unit have shown the Muzen Cobb early on, but oftentimes I think of Muzen Cobb more as a mid laner even than a hunter, which makes me think they still need Gryff's pick. So then where are they going to be going with this hunter? The Jingwei already taken away, the Chronos, the Freya. There's not a lot of really good other hunters that come to mind in the physical variety. I mean, maybe he can go back to trying to run that Hachiman again, but it was constantly forced away in that lane.
It's too physical heavy so far, though, from Hype Unit for me to believe that there's going to be a double hunter composition just yet. Possibly a Soul, if
maybe,
anything, for Gryph could come out in that dual lane. Maybe even Oboronic would choose to play it, but I would have to hope not, at least. No Oboronic on that Soul in the mid lane. Just don't think that it has the pressure to kind of stand up for snuff against the likes of Erlang, Poseidon. But interesting switch up from Armada here. They chose to ban away the Zeus in that 4th ban slot last game, but this time they're just going to take away the Morrigan.
It's a great point. They're still banning mid laners. Maybe they do think this Muzen Cobb is for Gryph. I'd be worried about that. He clearly doesn't get help as is, and now you put him on the Muzen Cobb, who has very little chance to escape. It's just all turnaround potential for him. And now Armada grabbed the Hachiman for themselves. They really are boxing Hype Unit into a corner, it feels like, in these picks and bans.
Well, Hype Unit are almost kind of funneling themselves into this,
well, sure.
To be fair, Finch. I think that Hype Unit are just so in their own minds right now about trying to figure out what's best to deal with Armada instead of just trying to play what's best for Hype Unit.
And last game, I thought they did draft at least some of their own priority stuff, but we'll see if they can make that work for them here as the Hachiman comes through for Armada, something Snoopy does like to play. We don't see it quite as much as some other picks for him, but it's a god with a ton of tools, so he's certainly going to be able to benefit from that. You already talked about the cripple for Poseidon, how strong that can be, but if it is AMC mid, Poseidon can likely match his pressure there too, so it feels good in that regard as well.
Kind of want to see a Xing 10 here for Hype Unit.
Really? What do you like about him here in this situation?
I think that Xing 10 could introduce a lot of control. One thing that Hype Unit is definitely lacking right now is hard crowd control.
Sure.
Aside from Serqet's Cobra's Kiss and her last breath, there really isn't a whole lot of confirmation there for setup. And if Janus is being the hover choice right now, that's got to be a confidence pick play then from oBoronic, maybe just trying to default to what he finds to be comfortable, but it's risky business trying to take the Janus into the cripple factor from Poseidon.
If they take Janus Guan Yu here, that does make me think that they're all of a sudden going into this sort of dive type composition with through space and time and the Serqet and the Osiris and the Guan Yu, and you can't peel them away. I mean, it gives them some nice sustain, some frontline presence, but I mean, they're going to have to be the aggressors, I feel like, to make this work.
I will not let you fall.
Yeah, they're going to have to be the aggressors to
you don't
make
love
this
it?
work.
Not feeling it here, Taco?
I'm not feeling it at all, Finch. I'm sorry to say, but it just doesn't really feel like there's much fluidity with this Hype Unit composition. The level of execution that they've now drafted themselves into a corner with is at a peak right now. And when you're dealing with the likes of players from Armada, I mean, Snoopy, Geno, Mass, these guys have all been through the ringer before. They're going to know typically how to prevent high execution compositions from taking off the ground, especially when they have so much free reinitiation here because of the Jormungandr, the Erlang, Shen, Kumbhakarna now to add it on top. And that might just be the cherry on top here for Armada. That is a slam dunk of a 5-man draft.
Well, if they are going into this sort of all-in dive, right, then Kumbhakarna puts the brakes on that pretty heavily. I mean, Serqet would have a hard time getting through him. I mean, so would the Osiris. I mean, just about everyone gets stomped. The Guan Yu should be able to keep right on going, but I don't know, Taco. Armada have drafted a stifling set of gods here with their pick ban phase. Hype Unit, I think, might have just gotten a little bit ahead of themselves here.
Hype Unit, I think, was just thinking too far forward instead of just paying attention to what was right in front of them. I think the team should have just drafted more towards their strengths, more towards their comforts. Trying to play fire with fire against Armada just seems risky, honestly, and could possibly wind up being Hype Unit's demise here. I don't want to throw them out entirely because we have seen Hype Unit with some pretty exceptional performances before in the past, and they're definitely 5 talented players that I don't want to rule out just yet. It's just that, God, sometimes when you look at compositions on paper, it just feels steep.
It does seem tough for them, but I think I can see some of the areas where this can work. If Gryph is in a world where he doesn't think he's going to get any backup and he can't play Jingwei, then the Muzen Cobb does make, I suppose, some sense to me in that it gives him just a ton of 1v1 boxing potential against Snoopy. It's so hard to beat on a Muzen Cobb. The Guan Yu could potentially give them some sustain, some team fighting presence as well. They've got to hold on to this early game. They can't let these buffs get taken away the way they did in game 1, and then I can maybe see them breaking out of that mid game.
Yeah, but when you think Muzen Cobb, you think pressure, right? But
Yeah.
how are you meant to establish pressure against Erlang Poseidon or Poseidon with Jormungandr or Kumbhakarna? You're usually stifled because of the Kumbha mezzes. You're prevented because Poseidon has movement speed as well with his own trident stem. And Muzen Cobb, I mean, normally you see a lot of prevalence in this god also because of that stinger. That cripple
Right.
can be very impactful. But when I look at Armada, there's really no one that the cripple is going to factor against, aside from the Erlang Shen.
And that's if he didn't initiate with the 3, right? Like if
Exactly, and it's definitely tough for sure. Like I said, this is mostly going to come down to execution for Hype Unit, but I am there with you in a sense that if Hype Unit are able to maintain momentum around staggering the death timers of Armada, then there's definitely some potential for this composition to take off, but Boronic's got to pull something out of his back pocket, man. Rabbit out of the hat somewhere. This Janus has to snap.
Yeah, I do think that this Janus is sort of the big pick here, right? The one with the big question mark on it for me about whether or not they're really going to be able to get this much value on it. So you're right to hone in on Oboronic. He's going to have to be the one that makes sure he can show why they picked this in a do-or-die game. But don't worry out there, everyone at home. We are working on getting everyone into the game. It will be just another moment. But I will be able to get you over there to the casters. They'll break this down a little bit further for you as we move into Game 2.
A lot of talk about Janus here, Ryan. We heard a lot of talk about Janus. Janus is a character, let's forget about the casual side of things, even in competitive. Flip of a coin, it really just comes down to the style of gameplay that you're going to play, your team is going to play. It's definitely not a character that you can kind of just throw out and say, good or bad.
No, I mean, he's a very playstyle dependent character. Different Januses play it different ways, but I think the big thing is that he's inconsistent. Even for the best Janus players in the entire world, there are games where you just don't get to hit that many unstable vortexes. You don't get to hit those ultimates sometimes, and that's just kind of the way of the road. Hype Unit has a decent amount of damage, so I don't think that they're really lacking for that, which is something that I'm always concerned with Janus compositions. The mobility is great. I'm hoping that he's locked into the duo lane with some of the through space and times early, because Gryph, if left on an island with this AMC against Hachiman, who I think is the best at pushing leads in the duo lane right now, he has great solo potential all the time. That's somewhere where I'm nervous for Hype Unit.
On the flip side, though, I do like a Muzen Cobb versus Hachiman. You're right. The duel situation can be scary. But the amount of pressure and push that the Muzen Cobb can bring, I think, is absolutely a benefit compared to what we saw in game number 1. In my opinion, Hype Unit needed some sort of early game presence. Most likely in the mid and jungle, and that's really what we asked for. But if I can get it on a side lane, I'll take it. Hype Unit was a step behind the whole time. Now they've got pressure with the Muzen Cobb. Serqet can be a little bit more agile throughout the jungle. And Osiris, again, versus the Jormungandr, a tall task. But Osiris should be able to fight and be up there and close and personal earlier than the Achilles was.
Yeah, I like the Osiris pick the most, I'd say, out of the adjustments that Hype Unit has made. The Serqet pick, it feels like Armada was really prepped for that. Erlang, Poseidon, Kumbhakarna, good luck in moving, basically. I'm curious to see where Hype Unit's going to put all these. I mean, do they put Serqet support for Inbound? Do they leave Guan Yu for jungle then in that situation?
Eager.
Do they put Guan Yu in the support role and leave Serqet towards Layers in the jungle? I'm just of the opinion with the way Layers played yesterday, he needs to be on a hyper carry, which means that I think he should be on Serqet.
Agreed.
But then you're left with Guan Yu support, and I'm not in love with that.
No, it will be the Guan Yu in the jungle. LayersSlays, the Assassin's Blessing, and the Mace 1. We'll see if the Mace can win. Eh?
No, what? There's a Mace every game. It's not like this was a special occurrence that warranted a terrible pun that I would have been okay with.
Listen, man, some people like to have the purple lightsabers out here. Hype Unit gonna need a lightsaber to cut themselves a victory. Mace Windu used a purple lightsaber.
Yes, I'm aware of that.
Well, you made a look.
Yeah, it just didn't make any sense. I can't yes and that.
Hype Unit are gonna need a lightsaber of any color to carve a win here, because Armada has really staunched themselves up.
What color would your lightsaber be? You would choose.
Probably gray.
Interesting. Mine would probably be green. It's just because green's my favorite color, but the purple one is balling. Well, hopefully Inbound's start on the right-hand side will be a little bit stronger this time.
Oof.
Their clear potential isn't great between Serqet and Osiris, but their fight potential is, especially once they hit level 2. But I imagine Armada is not going to be too worried about the fight itself. Instead, let's take the clear battle, hope that we can out-clear. the cleaves from Osiris that will help, and the way that they've kind of staggered these waves is beneficial.
Yeah, the micro is good.
But they still get out clear.
Now comes the fight. Inbound died here in game number 1 against this very selection of the Jormungandr. Geno was a little bit more aggressive with Serqet last time, but the difference here, Inbound alive and well, and going to their own blue buff. So right away, a better look for Hype Unit. Don't get me wrong, I think games can be lost at the first blood moment. I don't think game number 1 was lost at that moment. I think Inbound could have dotted the Geb, came back and kind of found their footing, but they never happened. So without that slip-up option, I think Hype Unit already in a better spot.
Absolutely, and now Armada is kind of forced off the totem of coup. Feels a little bit weird, right? I mean, they had lane pressure. Inbound Wolves had a wave to deal with, or at least half of one. But because both Wolves and Inbound are level 2, it ends up being a much better fight potential than what they could have had, even with the lane pressure from Solo and Geno. So they have to go back to their own blue, and they lose a bit of pressure there.
Griff here with the slow on top of Snoopy. The blink Guan Yu gets a nice slow on a Snoopy who dashes back to safety.
That was a pretty sick gank there, huh, Tom?
No.
Agreed. That sucks. What does that do? It doesn't even do anything because Snoopy was already pressured underneath the tower.
Yeah.
If you want to come and soak the wave, that's fine. You don't need to blink on it. I don't know. That was weird.
Early oracles, and here's a gank on Wolves again early. 50% HP down to about 20. And he'll safely find himself under the tower. And again, right away, more advantageous. A little bit of help from the passive. Wolves not getting trounced there. Wolves getting solo didn't spell the demise for the team in total, but him avoiding that here certainly looks good. I'm comparing everything to game number 1 because it all just slowly fell out of favor for Hype Unit, and they fixed a lot of those mistakes, and that's what you ask for in a game number 2 after getting jumped on, stomped, sat on, trounced, and beat up like Hype Unit did in game number 1, man. Just everything, make it different. And Hype Unit already looking for the aggressive play at the red buff.
I like it. Inbound might be able to just get some smalls here. I think he's going to play pretty passively, but Griff's on the way. Snoopy pushed underneath the tower. Secured actually
Layers
by
is
Armada,
here.
but Meerkat's in trouble.
And Layers gets the first blood. Hype Unit, they look for the red buff. They don't get it, but they get the fight. Ask any competitive player. That's more important. Inbound and Griff here, surrounded by the enemy duo lane. Nice zigzag. Inbound, 1 kill. And Geno gonna yawn to keep the second one at bay. I don't know about the purple buff, boys, and neither does Hype Unit. Here's the blink forward. Inbound trying to separate himself from his carry. Mask is caught by Inbound, and Griff trying to get away. Zigzag good, jump better. And the half gank from Armada, fruitless. That's a 1,000 gold lead in 3 minutes.
Nicely done there by Hype Unit all around, really. I mean, Snoopy gets pushed underneath the tower. That's a really good rotation in from Layers. I don't know that Meerkat dies without Layers being there for that extra little bit of CC and damage.
Same.
May have been able to escape towards his own tier 2. So good positioning. I don't know where Mask was during that. Without communication from Mask, you have to back up there, I think. That's a situation where Armada, you don't want to give up that red, but it just feels like it's the right thing to do. Hate to see that.
Yeah, Ayajutsu. The old stun and done. Snoopy answers back, puts Armada on the board. A necessary play there for Armada. And is able to cut the 1,000 gold lead down to about 500. A little bit more, give or take. So nice play there for sure.
That one really hurts because it's kind of twofold in that spot. I mean, Snoopy was a little bit behind Griff now. That's a matchup where you want Griff to be ahead. Stinger off the mark. But here comes Layers. Snoopy's still in trouble.
And Snoopy doesn't know. Does have the horse available. Dash is good. There's a horse. There's the other horse. They're off to the races. I'm going to have fun with that. Layers ejects at exit. Takes his way into the jungle. An important thing, you know, we can talk about how bad Guan Yu jungle is all day, but the protection shred at the early stage, you're doing true damage.
Yeah,
some of these
I mean, it's
characters.
relevant all game, for sure. And the fact that Snoopy loses his ultimate there is really good.
Yep.
That's exactly what you want when you're about to invade red.
Oof.
Because Layers doesn't have his ultimate. He's playing Guan Yu, so I don't do that much without it at this stage of the game. It kind of neuters that potential to get involved there, where normally I think that's a perfect spot to play aggressively. I mean, that's a spot. Geno didn't have his ultimate. He was level 4 during that invade, where Inbound had his. I don't know. Those are the ones you have to be aggressive on.
I do think once the second item is finished from the Guan Yu, all of a sudden things are a lot more interesting, right? He does next to no damage without itemization. It's always such an interesting thing to say this character is item dependent because that's MOBAs, but Guan Yu definitely more so than some of the other choices. You could pick a Robin up and go 3-0 without backing. That's not going to happen with the Guan Yu.
No, it's a little bit hard to stick to people without some extra movement speed. I like the Talaria for that selection. I mean, you don't really need that much extra power. So you do get great scaling. The base damage alone on Cavalry Charge will kind of get the job done for you. I would love to see a Blackthorn Hammer for Layers after a Jotun's Wrath, I think is probably the way I'd prefer to see it go, but Crusher works pretty well on Guan Yu as well.
Layers gonna go off to the races one more time. Ton of damage on a Meerkat. Look at that, baby. Kraken comes out as Meerkat's still alive, but oBoronic through the wall. Make sure that Meerkat hits the fall. Layers through the portal up north. And a wonderful save, not good enough. Geno's gonna blink and take down the jungle.
Now it could be a good fight though, because here comes Wolves over the top looking for Mast. Mast, no ultimate available. And Inbound.
No! The minion! Inbound ults the minion instead of the player. What on earth was that? That cannot happen. Oh, Hype Unit had a fantastic moment, and it was marred. Snoopy's gonna get hit here. Find a way out. Inbound trying to make up for the misplay and just can't. That one, you know, it's a meme in our scene, but honestly, you do hate to see it.
You truly do. Meerkat dead. Can't be going for red without any sort of pressure there, but maybe oGryph is overextended now. Mast right there. Good Cobra's Kiss, but knock up there, and you just kind of leave the B for dead at this point.
Yeah, oGryph by himself, surrounded and pounded. Armada with kill number 3. Hype Unit still leading the charge. Griffin dead, so Layers blinks forward and finds the kill onto Mask. Hype Unit now trying to reset, and the red buff goes the way of Hype Unit. So, sloppy is the terminology I'll use, but the invade successful, and Hype Unit maintaining a 1,000 gold lead. This, Ryan, is much more akin to what I expected to see.
Yeah, it's much better, for sure. They're playing very aggressively. They're using their composition's mobility. I mean, the ground that Layers can cover with a blink is considerable, no doubt about it, with the Cavalry Charge. Oronic's playing the most mobile character in the game. Inbound playing maybe the second most mobile character in the game. I mean, you've got a lot of options here for Hype Unit, and they're leveraging them very well. But at the end of the day, you have Guan Yu jungle. You know what I mean? Like,
well,
look at the composition as a whole as it matures. You've got an Osiris that's going to fall off towards the late game. Will be able to tank very well, but not going to do anything in damage. Layers is going to not be able to do a whole lot of damage in the late game. It's slow damage from Guan Yu. He becomes heal bot. oBoronic will gain more damage as the game goes on for sure. He's got one-shot potential, but it's risky in its potential.
Kraken and Inbound able to wiggle away from Surge number 1, but the Surge number 2 is the other way. That said, Hype Unit trying to bite back and does just that. The mid lane mage traded out for Inbound. That's a win for Hype Unit. Now jumping over the top is Wolves looking for Geno. Layers is in the scrum and will find his way down south. Geno still hanging on by a thread, but Hype Unit a little bit more disciplined and not looking for that one. Again, I think game number 1, we see Hype Unit try and kill off Geno and get double killed, and that turns into an Armada objective. Hype Unit, much better look at this. Watching oGryph, and game number 1, you used the term scared.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
No, this is much better from him. He was beads ulting everything that moved, basically, it felt like, in a lot of those engagements. Now, playing much more aggressively. Snoopy in trouble, but Bobby off the mark. Still going in, but Snoopy will die. Poison doesn't spread. Inbound will fall as well. That's still a win overall for Hype Unit.
And that's the classic Inbound play that you were talking about. This is the way he's going to play. And if you want to kill my support 7 times while I kill your carry 7 times, that will be a win in the MOBA world. So, Hype Unit up 7-5. And I'm sure the Hype Squad, this team, you want to talk about hometown support as Meerkat's getting walked down. Excuse me, Mask. Getting walked down, pushed away from the purple buff. These guys have all the fans in the world, it seems like. The Hype Unit definitely hyped up right now.
Without a doubt. Mask has leads there. Geno in some trouble. Stinger is solid. That's actually enough to get him out of danger, but good damage coming from oGryph, who's really controlling this side of the map much better. And look, Hype Unit's playing so much better.
Yeah.
Where have they been on every spawn? Red buff.
Yep.
Purple buff. And it's all on the left side of the map, and Snoopy hasn't been able to get a lead because of that. and he hasn't been able to push it. Armada's normal game plan has not been working very well. And Meerkat has had a tough game, man. His positioning has been a little bit off. Like I said, I don't think he's respecting the mobility of Hype Unit's composition. Now, with the composition this mobile, if they want you dead, they'll kill you. I mean, there's not a lot you can do as the mid laner, I think. All your job is to get off your damage and make them invest as much as possible and pull them as far out of position as you can. Your job is not to live in a composition like this, but I just don't think Meerkat has made them work hard enough. They've been able to stay grouped and stay together and still kill him at the same time, and you're not pulling them apart. You gotta stretch them thin in order to make it work.
The biggest difference from Armada to Hype Unit game number 1, if you're looking at the lead, you're saying, all right, 1,500, cool, 2,000. How is Armada ahead so much more? And that was the objectives. And that's what Armada are doing well as a losing team. They're not making all of these plays. As Geno sets one up for himself. They're making that play though. Inbound gonna go down. Layers looking to punish. Between time and space will be a distraction. As Mask is the one that goes down. Meerkat, the one hit by the mid lane ultimate.
Whoa, Snoopy dashes in right there, immediately hops on the horse. oGryph in some trouble. Great whirlpool there by Meerkat. SoloOrTroll is here. That heal from Layers just a little bit too strong.
And so this is what Armada are doing well. Admittedly, that was a good play from them, but I'm talking more how they respond to hype. They're always getting 1 or 2 as Snoopy goes down, and that prevents Hype Unit from looking for the Gold Fury, from looking for the Pyromancer. This is the first opportunity that Hype actually has because they strung together a kill or 2, but SoloOrTroll making this rotation will stop this in its tracks. Oh, this is a dangerous call here, Aggro.
A little bit, but I don't hate it. You know Kraken's down for a little bit longer. Use
True.
that sustain. This is the time to try.
SoloOrTroll is lurking. 40% on the Gold Fury. oBoronic not exactly the big man when it comes to securing objectives on the Janus. It's going to be fully leashed out. Inbound in trouble. SoloOrTroll knocks him up, and Inbound goes to the ultimate and hits it, trades his life out. They need to turn this kill. Gryph confirms it, and the Gold Fury. The Gold Fury pulled one more time, jumped on top of Meerkat on the backside. 2 traded out. Gryph gets 1, and now Wolves versus 2. A 2 for 2. Armada will walk away from Wolves.
We're going to try. Through space and time comes through. That'll get oBoronic into the fight quickly, as will Layers, who's got his ultimate back up and ready, and he's hunting Snoopy.
And those are speed boots. Going for the Snoopy, turns around, big boy damage. And oBoronic confirms. Another positive to the Guan Yu that people forget. How much base damage Guan Yu's ultimate does. Don't forget, subsequent hits of that Guan Yu ultimate are going to ramp up the damage. Let's take a look at these numbers real quick. 20% damage escalation per hit.
A lot.
That is a large amount.
Yeah, I'm not the math guy. You know, I'm not here to do Anatoly's job.
Totally.
For sure, but it's a lot. It hurts. That's like that's the way I look at it.
Realistically, the realistic application. Layers hits 3 of those hits, finds a stun, and lines oBoronic up for the kill. Later game, he'll only have to hit that maybe even twice, and oBoronic with 1 hit of the Unstable Vortex. That's a combo that they're looking at almost every time. Watch it. oBoronic will be in place and find the hit with the 2.
Gold Fury down to about half. Geno blinks in, resets.
Yep.
A bit unfortunate that he doesn't get anything out of it, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Good job by Hype Unit. They're keeping Armada kind of on the leash right now. They're walking them around the jungle, moving them where they want to move them, and they're keeping them on the hook for now. But anti-heal starting to come online. Mask has a Brawler's Beat Stick finally. Meerkat's still working towards Divine Ruin. Once that happens, it might be a bit harder for them to stay grouped.
I don't like this. Snoopy on the left side. oBoronic catches his eye. Here comes Geno, already cut down real low. oBoronic whiffs the 2. Inbound going over the top. Finds the zigzag and the kill, but the passive is in charge. Mid lane ultimates both miss. Gryph, on the other hand, takes down Geno. oBoronic gets 1 cat, and Layers gets the other cat. It's a 3 for none. Hype Unit win that fight. And now they've got an opportunity for an objective, but they're a little bit too low. Gryph in the red, another player back to base. SoloOrTroll's lurking.
It's hard to be stealthy on the Jormungandr, but
You're big.
he's giving it a shot. This is going to be a big steal if Armada's
This is
able
a
to get
huge
it.
steal.
They've got to be able to secure this.
They have no idea. SoloOrTroll is sneaking in the back. Nobody has seen him just yet. Everybody looking at Mask up front. 10% of the Gold Fury. SoloOrTroll spits. Armada take it. That's all. The big worm and the kills. One for Mask, one for SoloOrTroll, and everything for Armada. The 2-0 in the way of the SML.
That is devastating. Not only do you lose the Fury, but you get double killed off of it. We were also focused on SoloOrTroll. I didn't even see Mask ready and waiting to come in, but great timing from both of them, just in perfect harmony. They attack at the exact same time, and they make a big play. And that's what players that are at this level do. I mean, you can push them down a bunch, but they will be ready to take an option when you give it to them. And Hype Unit didn't really mess up there. I mean, maybe Wolves and Inbound shouldn't be stacked on gold at that position. They DPS'd it awfully slow. It felt like the Oboronic is holding Unstable Vortex in order to try and confirm it. That's just Armada making a play. You know, that's the Lakers down by 26, and Kobe just hits the fadeaway. And gets him hot.
Well, Layers looking for the layup, and we'll find it. Easy kill on the Meerkat, and helped out by the portals by Oboronic. Nice play there. Hype Unit continuing to go. I felt the wind come out of the sails for Hype Unit, and that could have been a big moment. So I think that reverse kill, Layers coming back and just easily lining that one up with Oboronic, very important. That is definitely, that play at Gold Fury is one that you think about. You've been there.
Oh yeah, that's definitely the one where you're feeling really good, and then that happens, and you get that feeling in the pit of your stomach instantly.
And because whose job is it to check my back Harpy camp for a Jormungandr? The answer is nobody's, but everybody's. So everybody just goes, oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, someone's definitely supposed to be checking something. I just don't. They didn't find Mask or Solo, and to have two people ambush you that way is not ideal.
Well, I think they saw Mask coming forward, and that's, if anything, took them away from SoloOrTroll to let him come in and just and take the Gold Fury easily. That said, the PC guys still trailing by over 10,000 gold. And that is over 2,000. Did I say 10,000?
You did.
Over 2,000 gold.
There it is.
10,000 a little bit more dire. Similar to game number one, is if that was the case, but anything but here. Nice competitive match, 18 minutes in, 16-10. And Hype Unit certainly looking good. Let's take a second look at that lurk play from SoloOrTroll over by the Gold Fury. It was certainly a lot of fun. Red buff coming up, actually, but here's that spit. SoloOrTroll able to make it just happen.
Yeah, this was absolutely beautiful. I mean, the spits there. Unstable Vortex was on the way, but the extra damage from Mask, I think, threw off the calculation.
Meanwhile, here's live play one more time. Snoopy dashes to the left side. A lot of damage, and Snoopy's the one that goes down. Griff with the play, finding it. And he's going to slow down Mask to keep Inbound alive for now. Mask has blink, could blink, and will. Down goes the support. So a 1-for-1 trade, but again, the way Bobby likes it, he's 1-7 and 12, folks.
Yeah, exactly. And the enemy 2 carries, 1-7 and 1-6. That's exactly the way Inbound wants to play, 100%.
Yes, that is how these teams are made, for sure. These teams being Inbound teams. Wolves 1v2. This looks like watching Hype Unit, and I think as more entertaining this game is, Meerkat just Boronic's asking what he's doing. Hype Unit look more comfortable. They are playing their game. Wolves looks like Wolves. If you took the names off game number 1, I couldn't tell you what team that was. Here in game number 2, I might say Eager because of the jungle Guan Yu. But this is much more akin to what we're used to seeing.
And I gotta give credit where it's due. I didn't love the idea of the Guan jungle, and Layers has played it really, really well, and it's really, really worked for him.
I think, and you know, that's the key. I think that I always say know your identity, play your game. That's something I say all day long. I'm not saying you should play Bastet support, but Guan Yu is that edge case, man. It looks silly, it's crazy, but he's 6-1-6, and he's doing this. Mask stunned and done, baby. Number 19, 716 for Layers. That's an area code. This guy's going insane right now. But we need more objectives, Ryan.
Oh, Griff misses the stinger. They really needed that one in order to get it working. I think Snoopy probably, maybe he wouldn't have died. Didn't have purification beads. I don't know. That's a tough one.
Very important play. If Gryph hits that, that's another Fury attempt. Maybe it doesn't get stolen. This time, it's a Kraken. Beautiful Aegis from oBoronic. That's going to save his life for now. Trading the Kraken for the Aegis. That's the old school combo. Geno in trouble. Wolves not at all. Gryph from the top side looking for the flank. Won't get it. The tier 1 tower in the mid lane being threatened. SoloOrTroll wants to defend it. Slowly, Gryph will walk up and take it. All the tier 1 towers down for Armada, and not a single structure has fallen on the side of the console squad.
Yeah, but that's a little bit scary because that's an extra 1,500 gold that Hype Unit has pulled out of the map that Armada still has waiting for them in the bank.
Truth.
And that Hype Unit will not continue to get 1,500 extra gold in that instance. So it's a little bit scary. Still, certainly having the map pressure certainly helps, especially when you have Janus and you could really chase people down very effectively. Not saying it's a negative by any stretch for Hype Unit, but keep in mind that not all gold is created equal. Buff invades can happen consistently. Objectives can happen more consistently.
Ooh.
Once towers are down, they're down.
This is scary. 30% and kind of getting killed easily. But Armada's going to demand the team fight. Big taunt from Mask, but here comes the Horseman. Layers on the backside just pestering Meerkat, and there's the combo. oBoronic gets the kill off of the assist from the jungle Guan Yu. Inbound on the horse from Snoopy. Last tick, last breath. But SoloOrTroll and the team take care of it beforehand. 2 for 2 so far.
Layers in some trouble. He'll go down to SoloOrTroll. oBoronic's still plenty healthy, but I don't think that's a winning fight for him.
Nah, he's got to find a way out. Threshold's good, knocked up. Portal still on cooldown, but should be fine. There it is. A large portal. That's a bad fight for Hype Unit, quite obviously. They were up about 5,000. Now they're only up about 3. But the biggest deal there is that the Gold Fury doesn't go. The Primal Fury doesn't go the way of Armada. So if you are rooting for the console squad, a little bit of a sign of little bit of silver lining. And if you're rooting for the PC guys, that is the best fight that Armada has had all game, I think.
Yeah, and that's still with a really bad Kraken from Meerkat that hit basically nobody. That was a great opportunity to just insta-kill Inbound right away because Geno interrupted his ambush with his mez, and then he used Deathbane and got pinned. And Meerkat kind of steps up, kind of doesn't.
Yeah.
oBoronic's ultimate doesn't really get a whole lot of value from pure damage perspective, but gives great portals. oBoronic played that team fight nearly flawlessly as a Janus player, man. His Janus is so good. He plays it the right way, and he's in and out of the team fight, around the walls. He's hugging walls consistently.
Hey, man.
Had a couple great unstable vortexes that fight. oBoronic's playing lights out.
That's what you get out of the 5th best mid laner on console, right?
Yeah, not me saying that. Don't let his mom hear you saying that either. That's the thing.
No. It's a console meme. You wouldn't get it.
Yeah, I think I got it, Tom.
How many years has it been? Only like 3, right?
Yeah.
That wasn't a jab at you.
Season 3.
That wasn't a jab at you. You are my favorite. Inbound, Armada's favorite. But it's getting to the point where he's a little bit too tanky. Able to kind of survive that. A little bit of a loop-de-loop. And Gryph is going to take down Meerkat. That's death number 10 for the collegiate champion. He'll sit down again. This Hype Unit finds number 22. Gryph in trouble from Mask, but oBoronic shoves away the jungler with damage of his own. Gryph needs to dodge this and does. Where's SoloOrTroll going to pop up? Nice shot. Gryph now activated with the sprint. PS. Layers just taking care of Snoopy. 2 players dead. SoloOrTroll getting surrounded. He's likely to fall unless he pulls out a special inbound.
Easy for him, man. Not even close. That's easy for the kid. 7 in a row now for oBoronic. This front line of Wolves and Layers, man, has just been nearly unkillable. They're doing so much damage simultaneously. They've played really, really well.
And this, again, I need to reiterate it. This, for a lot, I know that our leagues are largely separate in fan base. So a lot of the PC people that know Armada don't know Hype Unit, and maybe vice versa. This is the Hype Unit that we watch. This is the Hype Unit that we know. This is the Hype Unit that's going for a fire giant right now. This is an audacious call, but it's 50% down. Geno's here, Mask is in the building, and Meerkat lurking in the parking lot. There's the knockup from Geno, Inbound trying to finish it. Layers going for the ultimate onto Geno. Hype Unit get the fire giant, and the fight after is going to go in their favor. The Kraken already down. Meerkat a hair of HP, and the B's not good enough. Hype Unit need to try and finish off the mid lane mage, but it's Mask that finishes off the hunter. But the trade is good. The bees are better, and Snoopy goes down to the Broken God. 26 in total for Hype Unit. Fire Giant in tow, 7,000 gold up. Aggro, we're 25 minutes in, and the Hype Unit really want a game 3.
Man, they're looking great right here. Meerkat just gets zoned perfectly by Wolves. He gets into the fight a little bit too late. Geno does what he can, but he's a Kumbhakarna. I mean, his steal potential is basically next to nothing at this point. Hype Unit's control is excellent, and look, that isn't a guaranteed Fire Giant by any stretch.
No.
That's not a coin flip, but it's a weighted coin. You know, it's in their favor. That's a 60-40, maybe a 65-35 sort of Fire Giant in Hype Unit's favor. And the fight isn't so lopsided that I love the call. I mean, they got 2 for 1 in that spot, but they lose Griff, the most important member to have the Fire Giant, because he's all your tower damage.
Yep.
So it's not awful for Hype Unit. It's not great, but I kind of just respect the cojones, man. I mean, you got to give them credit for just saying, yeah, we feel confident enough to try and go for this. And usually the team that's feeling good, even after losing a Gold Fury earlier on to a steal, that is still willing to have that sort of mentality and still go for it is a good sign. But they cannot afford to let Layers get picked here.
He's all by himself. The rest of the team is pushing a tier 2. Layers, looking at the build real quick.
Snoopy's like, guys,
I
he's
found
all
him
by himself.
I found him.
We see 4 other people on the map. I don't understand why we aren't trying to kill him.
1, 2, 3, 4 players will all back. That tier 2 tower on the left-hand side goes down nice and easy. Let's check in with this jungle Guan Yu real quick. The Brawl's beat stick right away. Not a high healing team, but you certainly want to keep Mask down, right? The boots, sure. Blackthorn Hammer, we asked for it. Shifter Shield, love it. 75%. This recently has been changed. This is the ideal version inside of him, in my opinion. And then a Rootforge Hammer. He's slowing players with the 2. He's slowing players with the ultimate as well. Veronic's got a threshold. That Rootforge Hammer is going to work a lot. He's number 2 on the damage charts. I love this. I'm a big fan of what's happening here for Hype Unit. And again, understanding their game, how they want to play. That play on the Fire Giant, that's an inbound call, and we all know it. This is Hype Unit playing their own game, and they are over 10,000 gold above Armada.
Yeah, they're looking phenomenal. I mean, look at the team comp for Hype Unit. What do they all have? Slows. I mean, you've got a slow from Osiris. Guan Yu, you highlighted. Oboronic threshold. Inbound doesn't have a slow, but he's got tons of other CC. Griff has a slow. That's his really only form of solid CC besides the cripple. No sprint from Armada. No winged blades from Armada. I mean, I get that you want the shell and the blink on the Kumbhakarna, but I don't know.
Winged blade has to happen
Watch out!
at the very least. Oh, poor Inbound takes the wrong train. Meerkat pops the Kraken just for fun, and one is already down. If Snoopy dies, this is a 2 Phoenix push.
That's game if Snoopy dies.
Yeah.
It might
Boronic.
still be game.
And again, just Boronic. Game number 1, Boronic did nothing, and it wasn't his fault. Inbound. Jumps to the back line trying to make a play. Everybody looking at him. Doesn't distract the entirety of the team like the game plan was. But here we are, just to finish that point off. Boronic didn't do anything, and it wasn't his fault. We didn't get to Boronic time. This is Boronic time. Layers looking for the back line. Snoopy in trouble. Here comes Wolves as well, but Mask takes care of Layers, and that's a big part of their team fight.
Really good peel coming from Armada now, and the Phoenix really hasn't taken that much damage. SoloOrTroll, on the other hand, has to use the Aegis, and it's still not enough. Griff gets him.
Snoopy's able to come back and take down Wolves. Inbound in trouble, pinned up, and Mask gonna knock him. Find the last hit as well. Armada with a fantastic defense here. Can't fault Griff for that as Boronic gets smashed on the back line. Griff knows he's dead, fights into it. One more basic or Bees takes care of Snoopy. And Boronic here.
Yeah, this is a bad idea. You gain nothing from being here. I mean, Boronic never in a million years gets that Phoenix. Should count himself lucky that Meerkat didn't wrap underneath through the jungle and punish him for using the portal, but I suppose he had the ultimate.
That's Boronic just trying to will his team into the victory to finish my point that was way too long to bring up on the left side when I did. We just didn't reach that late game mage stage. We didn't reach that point where oBoronic was able to make the impact on the Vulcan in game number 1, which is why I like to transition to the Janus. First of all, oBoronic fans will tell you that he's got a fantastic Janus.
Yep.
But also, it's a character that can make impact without the damage. Those portals made Layers able to make these plays in that mid game, and now you see the combination of the Guan horse into the unstable, and oBoronic's able to make these plays by himself now at this point in the game. This is how Hype Unit plays again for the 70th time this match, and this is why they find themselves here. That said, Armada, one of the best defensive sets you can have there on the left side. Phoenix inbound goes a little bit too deep. Layers has Wolves, and I like that play, but Mask did a great job at altering his play style. We've seen Mask dive the back line. This time he peeled and punished.
Yeah, both Geno and Mask turn and help Snoopy, and you need to. He cannot. Normally, they're probably so used to Snoopy being so far ahead that he doesn't need that level of peel. He does in this game, especially with this level of dive.
Inbound going in already just gets knocked up and whirlpool. The Kraken will miss, though. That's a big play. Meanwhile, oBoronic will just barely miss Snoopy. oGryph trying to deal with the entirety of the team on the backside, but Wolves and Layers are slaying up north. Those two take out those two. And Geno will answer back with oGryph, but again, double kill for the Horseman. And Hype Unit, they trade their Hunter for 3 separate players. SoloOrTroll will dodge oBoronic's shot, but go down anyway. 60, 40, 30, 30. Is this an EFG?
No, you go Phoenix here, I think. I mean, maybe you're a little bit concerned about respawns. Actually, you don't have Gryph. Yeah, you go Phoenix, or you go Fire here, because it's a little bit annoying with Geno alive, and he's going to make it a little bit difficult, but you don't have that much Phoenix just power, basically. You don't have that much damage on the Phoenix, and I don't think you can end from this position.
I don't think you can end either. Meerkat's going to be up in 13, Snoopy in 10. Phoenix halfway down, and Geno being a nuisance, but that's about it. Big shout out to Geno, and the right side burn will go down. If you're Armada, or excuse me, if you're Hype Unit, do you go for the Enhanced Fire Giant on the way home? I say no.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think you want to just reset it from here. You're a little bit too weak. The fact that oBoronic, when was the last time oBoronic had to press a relic button?
Yeah.
He hasn't been under siege at all in these fights. He's been positioning very well in that regard, and that's kind of allowed Hype Unit to just dive the enemy backline because oBoronic is so safe on this Janus. In that time, we just got done talking about how good it was that Mask and Geno turned around and peeled, and then Snoopy and Meerkat get dissected off by that ultimate yet again. That they have to be more cognizant of the angles at which oBoronic is standing, but it's hard because they don't have any ward vision. They can't see where he is.
And Meerkat's getting duped every time.
Yeah, Krakens have been bad.
These Krakens have been bad, but to Meerkat's credit, Bobby is doing the IRAF. The amount of times I go in my head, Bobby, what are you doing? And then watch Meerkat miss a Kraken and Layers slap Meerkat in the face. That's the brand of SMITE we're playing right now. Inbound does something arguably dumb, and then his team punishes the enemy team for doing what they should. One more time. Inbound jumps to the back line. oBoronic again just barely misses. oGryph, on the other hand, will push Geno out just barely. Everybody's still alive. The big snake going to come out. Wolves very low, but able to get healed up thanks to Layers. And a disengage from Armada. No ultimates available for either team. And that's going to be a push away.
Yeah, that should be Fire Giant now. I mean, you've got so much sustain with that Guan. Layers is a bit weak, but still should be a pretty healthy position for you.
Mask is healthy and Meerkat as well, though.
Yeah, but Meerkat doesn't have ultimate. He's kind of low on mana. He's got a blue buff on him, but SoloOrTroll's teleporting back in. Pyromancer goes down in favor of Hype Unit, and they'll back it up now.
I like that play much better.
Man, Meerkat and Snoopy have to split up in these team fights. You do so much peeling for each other as backliners in pro-level play. More often than not, it's not the support peeling for the Hunter, it's the mid laner.
Right.
But you can't stand that close together. You can never get hit by the same ability. You can never get zoned by the same person. But you have to be close enough to help those people. It's an incredibly delicate balance, but that's another fight where Snoopy and Meerkat are standing on top of one another, and so it's letting Layers get on top of both of them instantly. If you make Hype Unit choose which backliner they want to kill, the idea is the other one gets to flourish in that team fight. Now, if I'm Hype Unit, I'm just killing Snoopy and telling Meerkat, try because you're a Poseidon late game that doesn't really do much, but at least you have the option that way instead of both of your backliners just getting insta-kill.
It's also tough because Layers, who has transitioned his build, by the way, love the Masamune and the Oncule. Love these choices. I think the itemization coming out from Layers is great. You can't stop him. He's CC immune on a horse faster than you and stunning whoever he chooses. There's no option. Great option from the mid lane mage. Not a lot of damage though. Hype unit wants to go in right here.
Geno trying to just keep oBoronic at bay. That'll turn the rest of Hype unit to try and help him, but Geno basically single-handedly forced the disengage there.
Yeah.
Nicely done.
Beautiful. Beautiful play by Geno. He's been a superstar for Armada in this set for sure. Certainly in there. I think game number 1, he was their MVP on the Serqet. And game number 2, keeping them alive. He is the iron lung here for Armada.
The right side Phoenix will be up soon for Armada. Things are looking better, and Meerkat still has Kraken. So no relics on Snoopy, and that's scary. And again, Hype units carries escape a fight without losing a relic. And it's because Mask is just so tasked with helping on the backside because Layers dive is so potent. And I don't know. I mean, I just feel like maybe the call is to let them kill Meerkat. Try and keep Snoopy alive. Let them kill Meerkat. Let Layers and Wolves just get on top of him in the back line. But get on top of this AMC.
Yeah.
Just keep, maybe try and counter dive like Geno just did.
Griff,
they tried that through the early game. It didn't work, but they were behind at that point. Now you're basically...
Griff has been positioning himself very dangerous. Good fake fire giant. Real fight. oBoronic deletes Snoopy. And now the fight's going to continue from the right into the mid lane. Wolves trying to chase down Mask and will take some damage. That be that. Snoopy just gets bopped.
Yeah, just way too far forward without relics there. As I highlighted, he didn't have them. Can't be standing where they're probably going to have ward vision. They've got a blink Serqet. Inbound didn't even have blink available. You have to assume that if you get CC'd against oBoronic right now, you're dead.
Yes.
Because he's that locked in.
He doesn't miss. He feels like he doesn't miss when he's got these opportunities. Enhanced Fire Giant. I'm appalled. This is such a turnaround from game number 1, man.
Yeah, they looked like they weren't even in the same league.
Yeah,
like,
no.
Well, they aren't.
They're literally not.
But they weren't even, you know, the characters at different stats in game 1.
Well, here comes Inbound. One taunt for another. Meerkat being aggressed on by Layers. Kraken being used and no one getting hit by the big sea monster. The Phoenix on the right side goes down again.
Watch out. Okay, oBoronic spreads them right there. That was close. Griff used both relics in order to not get affected by the Kraken. That was a fine one from Meerkat.
Yep.
Just, again, you think, well, we just danced on Fire Giant for 10 minutes. There's no way he's got both relics up, right? Kind of does. So does oBoronic.
Which is interesting. oBoronic's positioning has been... Griffin's positioning, I don't want to say bad, but has been very, very, very aggressive. We're seeing Griff flank like an assassin and then find the Stinger Bees combo to take down players, which is effective. Very dangerous.
Yeah.
No relics up. Don't want to see that this push. That's for sure. Call me in 2 minutes and you can be your Hunter Assassin AMC. Right now, you got to play it a little bit more traditionally. Ryan, mid lane or left lane?
Left lane. I think you push mid lane a little bit and you keep the pressure on. I like what Layers is doing, keeping that right side wave pushed as well. Just keep the waves pushed up, but go left. And I like that they're kind of ignoring Gold Fury. I think there is an argument to try and knock Gold down so you can get an Oni later on.
Sure.
And kind of you just kind of you're cycling at this point to try and get away from the least helpful Gold Fury at this point in the game. But you've only got 2 minutes left on FG anyways. You may as well start pushing.
Completely agree. And it's the Enhanced Fire Giant, which melts Phoenixes. Enhanced Fire Giant makes it so that Wolves is a hunter, essentially. Able to cut down that Phoenix. Hype unit playing left, mid. Mid's going to be the place to progress on. Layers gets taunted by Mask, whose ultimate's already on cooldown. Inbound very low as he goes a little bit too deep. Will get cut down. Bad play there from the support.
They invested a lot into him, though. I mean, that was Kraken and that mounted archery. There was a lot for Armada they had to use while Geno and Mask were ulting the backline. So not bad there for Armada. That probably buys them a moment.
That's
stop the push.
That's a fantastic play for Armada. It stops the push. Hype unit get one more shot with EFG before they have to go back and try again. Inbound down for 40 seconds, and it will be a tight window there as well, knowing that inbound's going to come up somewhere in the middle of the last minute. So with that information, Armada are going to go on the offensive. And I think this is where it gets scary for Hype Unit. They have not been able to get as much as they should have for each of these wins. You win this fight and you get barely a Phoenix. You win Enhanced Fire Giant and you lose the push. It feels like Hype Unit are investing $5 and not really getting all that back.
It's a little bit tough, but I mean, it's hard to see these Phoenixes. Meerkat's able to land a crack in that fight, and what do you know? The whole fight goes a lot better for them pretty much instantly. Fire Giant's going to be completely gone. The timer on the left-hand, the top left of your screen isn't the duration of the buff. It's the duration until respawn, and it falls off with a minute left to respawn. So it's only 23 seconds left on the buff itself. Hype Unit's still going to have complete ward vision control. They've still got a couple more seconds of right side fire minions, and it looks like they may try and keep that rolling for a Fire Giant dance.
This is rough, though. Fire Giant's gone. This is no longer an enhanced Fire Giant push. It's just an old-fashioned push. The team is grouped up together. We are at the point, folks, 41 minutes in, where the next team fight could arguably win. If 4 players go down on either side, the other team takes it for sure at this moment. Inbound going to look forward, trying to surge people off of the Phoenix that's about to respawn. Ultimate from Kraken. Kraken's already used, and Inbound healthy as a horse. Armada still poised and ready to play defense, but Layers takes care of Solo, and that's a big, big kill. Meerkat puts down Layers, but Oboronic from the backside puts down Snoopy. Right side Phoenix is gonna fall. Meerkat uses beads and avoids the taunt. A big play there as Mask shows up looking for Wolves. Sprint activated by Hype Unit, and they're out of there.
It should have a theme song at this point, because I know I've said it a bunch, but welcome to the Oboronic show.
Yep.
Everybody. I mean, Snoopy dies with Relics up there, and that's the whole reason that fight goes poorly for Armada. That and another bad Kraken from Meerkat. Inbound overextends, tries to catch Snoopy out. Snoopy's able to dash away, look pretty safe, and Meerkat's trying to crack an inbound as he comes down off of Snoopy's head, but doesn't really manage to find a good one in that spot. That being said, Armada didn't use that much. I mean, it was really just beads from Meerkat and Blink from Mask. Ultimates are irrelevant to be used at this point because by the next time that they'll fight, they'll all be up. So don't keep track of those unless it's going to be a really extended engagement where teams are fighting over and over and over again. Really, relic timers are all that matters at this point in the game.
Look at Oboronic.
I literally don't think he's used a relic in 20 minutes.
Oboronic sitting here like, should have got Frenzy.
He could have at this rate. I'm not kidding.
He's 10-0-14. And listen, I've got a professional Janus player next to me. It's easy not to die, but to go 0.
No, he's played great. It's not easy. It's easy to go 0 deaths. It's not easy to go 10-0-14 with 0 deaths.
There you go.
It actually be involved.
Choose one.
And look, his front line is doing a great job at setting him up. Make no bones about it. He Layers and Wolves and Inbound have been CCing the opposition for him beautifully all game long. Oboronic has capitalized, and even though I'm saying it's the Oboronic show, because it has been, it doesn't take away from how well Layers has played in particular, how well Wolves is front line in this game. Playing Osiris 40+ minutes in isn't super fun, at least not to me. That's why I don't play solo lane. You do 6 damage, and you're tanky, sure, but not that tanky once these carries get all their items.
I think the fun part of this game for me is that, you know, the lead singer was Layers and then gave the mic to Oboronic. You know, this is that handoff that we talk about a lot. The jungle Guan Yu is a mid-game monster. If you will travel with me out to the outskirts of oddball picks, when you play Guan Yu aggressively in the jungle, he's going to, or even in the solo lane and built aggressively, you're going to find that you peak at that mid-game. And that's really what Layers was able to do, and just control this option. The backline had no chance. Speed boots, CC immune horseman, and the damage gets ramped. 11, 4, and 15 for the artist formerly known as Chaotic Purpose. And his purpose here has been absolutely to cause chaos. Armada trailing by a bunch of gold, largely irrelevant, but Hype Unit again on the offensive.
Quickly, can we see Layers in his protections? He has a 3k defense pot now that he just popped. I wonder how tanky that makes him. It feels like that's going to give him a decent amount of pry. Yeah, he's at 150 each. That's not too shabby. That's before the Prot steal you get from that Taolu assault as well.
I think, you know, and he's, after 4 deaths, he's like, that's enough, boys.
Yeah.
Shout out to Meerkat and Snoopy. A dozen each. Great attention to the carries from Hype Unit. Bobby, again, on his tightrope act. Use your life total as a resource. Inbound taking that to the nth degree. Wolves jumps in looking for Snoopy. Dash is good. Titan under attack from the minions on the right-hand side, but the left-hand side is where oBoronic will attack Meerkat. Inbound barely alive, but the mid lane gone. Snoopy gonna be down as well. oBoronic, the double for the console mid laner. SoloOrTroll in the ground. And Inbound could be in trouble, but the minions doing work on the Titan. The left side Phoenix is down. NotGeno is here and will be collapsed on, but Hype Unit, they won a game 3, and they're gonna look for it. Geno goes down, the Titan at 40%. The lone Jormungandr to play defense, but the damage is good. The console boys bring it to a game 3.
Man, really impressive from Hype Unit, but just the worst game Armada's carries have ever had collectively. I mean, another fight where neither Meerkat nor Snoopy use a relic before they die in a 40-plus minute team fight. Meerkat really wants to find a crack in that fight and hits one, but doesn't do enough damage. And even if he does, I mean, he gets flattened because he steps too far up. I don't know what the answer is besides don't pick Poseidon.
Sure.
100%. Give Snoopy the Chernobog again or something else. Maybe maybe it's not even the pick. It's really just the dive comp was too good. Ban Janus. Ban Janus. Ban Janus.
Well, that's the problem. You've banned 3 of oBoronic's options.
Don't care. Ban Janus. It's his best gun.
oBoronic and the boys do it. We're tied at 1. We'll bring it down on the desk.
Wow, after a really tough loss in game number 1, Hype Unit somehow keep this fairy tale alive and claim game number 2, though it was not easy. Something like 43 minutes on the clock. Taco, I mean, we got to break this one down, right? I mean, in the early game, it was all Hype Unit, but they get stalled at the Gold Fury. We'll talk about that one later on, but they still managed to hold on. What was the big difference maker for you in game number 2?
It was really just all about oBoronic and Layers and Inbound. I think that having Layers and Inbound to kind of separate and cause a lot of dispersion in that backline. It was tons of chaos, and that was the perfect environment for oBoronic to thrive on with those Janus through space and times. And they were almost always finding a home, which is what really, I think, ended up shifting the pace of the set.
Yeah, I think it was a mentality shift as well for Hype Unit coming into this game. They played almost ludicrously aggressive throughout the early game in this one, constantly diving Armada, and in particularly Meerkat, man. They gave my dude a really rough time of it in the early game. 2-13. We don't often see him at this kind of area. Same thing for Snoopy. He struggled throughout this early game too. They really focused him. And they talked a lot about Layers and oBoronic. I think they're not giving my man Griff enough credit. He was running the early game on this Muzen Cobb, almost like an assassin the way he moved around.
Yeah, SoloOrTroll and Mass were definitely on Griff patrol duty. It felt like they were exclusively looking to try and combo out this Muzen Cobb, prevent Griff, because without Griff, we saw what happened. Hype Unit was really struggling to siege. It took them so long, even after having breached the base by taking out that right side Phoenix, it still felt like if Griff wasn't there, Hype Unit wasn't closing out.
And look where all these fights are happening. This is such good replay selection. Good job back there, guys. They were all back, pushed up beyond the red buff for a lot of these fights, and they were into Armada's jungle, getting right up in their face, up close for those up-close punches, and Armada were struggling to respond to them. Eventually, though, that play around the Gold Fury is what kind of stalled them out, and Hype Unit had a hard time around the FG and really getting that and sieging into the base of Armada. But eventually, man, Griff and oBoronic were able to get it done because Layers, Wolves, and Inbound relentlessly set them up as that front line.
Yeah, we saw the highs that were involved with Hype Unit towards the end of that game when they were able to give that extra layer of survivability to Griff. They really started trying to cater, and Griff as well did an outstanding job with his positioning. He also was hovering oBoronic, which I think made a huge difference because having those portals to kind of utilize on the Muzen Cobb was really important and crucial for keeping him alive. But going back to that Gold Fury that you were mentioning, I actually want to do a little bit further of a breakdown here. So first things first, the positioning is what I really wanted to look at. Inbound Wolves, and no real surprise to see them kind of toggling the aggro. But for oBoronic is sitting rather far back here because he doesn't want to be directly involved. There's no reason for the Janus, who's got such good range, to really get up close and personal on this objective, especially not since you've got SoloOrTroll also kind of just hanging out here silently. And while it might not seem like too big of a deal to have SoloOrTroll on that left-hand side over the wall, it's not necessarily the steal potential that he was after. I mean, stealing gold was definitely on Armada's mind, but it's the kill setup that I was really happy with when I watched this. And if we play this through, and waiting for the opportunity.
Because Mask is going to come in, I think,
and
here as well, right?
And he blinks in. And this blink in from Mask is what I think kind of caused a little bit of catastrophe here for Hype Unit, because now they're not just getting pinched from one side. It's not just SoloOrTroll having the sole aggression here. You've also got, you know, obviously Mask coming into the backside. So next thing you know, keep your eyes on that Gold Fury, because as this all breaks down, it was just catastrophe here for Hype Unit. And this steal on top of the pick punish, because both Inbound ended up dying there, and then there wasn't really much left for oBoronic to do other than try and escape. But it was a beautiful punish from Armada that really brought them back into this one.
Yeah, that was huge. That kept them in the game for a while. It's the reason I think, in large part, that game went 40-something minutes. So that was one of the big plays from that one. But game number 3, the big decider match now, is on the menu. Let's head over to Armada up against Hype Unit in the third picks and bans, the one that will decide absolutely everything. And honest to goodness, you heard Aggro talk about this in game number 1. This is all Hype Unit need to win. If they grab this one, they're into that MSI bracket already. Even if they go get absolutely trounced in the finals after this, this is the big match. And on the flip side of it, Armada, a team with Snoopy on it, a team with Mast, who's got this storied SPL career, and Geno and SoloOrTroll. I mean, that team might not make it. They have to buckle down now in game number 3 and show us that they're a team that can do more than just win here, but that can take some games off SPL.
Don't count your chicks before they hatch, baby.
Yeah.
And for Armada, I think that they might have already been on that autopilot feature, kind of expecting this to be a blow over 2-0 in their favor. And now, with game 2 having gone the way of Hype Unit, that's certain to be a wake-up call for the guys over there on Armada. And I'm expecting aggression, and I'm expecting it to come as soon as that clock hits 0.
I'm expecting so too, and there's some adjustments they can make in picks and bans, I think, to prevent this. One, not let oGryph have that AMC. That was huge for them in the early game. He not only had pressure, but he was able to rotate to mid, to red bus, to steal them a lot. Way different than in game number 1. Number 2 is the Janus. I mean, that enabled oBoronic to facilitate that dive composition we highlighted in picks and bans. If those picks are different, if they're not comfortable, then I don't know if Hype Unit can go back to that same well and try and win again in game number 3.
And I gotta say, I absolutely love what Hype Unit was able to accomplish there in game 2, because I think it goes without saying. Clearly, I was super skeptical. I had zero belief that Hype Unit was going to be able to pull something magical out from that game 2 composition, but man, they executed it perfectly. And with that level of execution in mind as well, I think that that's a huge statement to Armada. It goes to show that Hype Unit isn't just some one-trick pony.
I agree with you, Taco. Hype Unit clearly have already proven themselves here just in that game number 2, but I think that their sights are set a little bit higher. One more thing Armada might look to adjust is this Poseidon. I think there was clearly some discomfort there from Meerkat in game number 2 from what I saw. And it's not just that he died a lot, but even when he was alive in the fights, the Krakens weren't always on the mark. They were errant. There were some that looked bad but got Aegis or immuned, and we understand that. But there were some other ones, man, that just did not hit home. That needs to be cleaned up too if Armada wants to look better in game number 3. Maybe it's let him try it again and a bit more comfortable, or maybe it's just put him on a different god.
Who's to say it might be limited exclusively to Poseidon? Like we already talked about, Inbound, oBoronic, Layers, they were all heavily aggressing against Meerkat, and that type of pressure could be part of the reason why Armada are looking for this Jormungandr first and foremost. Having that soft front line kind of solidify there for Meerkat does give him a little bit more flexibility, I feel, to not have to necessarily try and opt to be the utility setup man, because that's normally what we envision whenever we see Poseidon, but Meerkat obviously just never really to bring that to light in game 2 there. So maybe even toss Meerkat onto the Janus if Armada are scared that oBoronic might be looking to take it, because if I'm Hype Unit, Osiris, Serqet, you want that for the early game pressure, for the flexibility. Maybe Inbound runs back to Serqet again, who knows, but I think that's a guaranteed Janus third pick if Armada don't stop it now.
Boss has been picked up here. This gives them a ton of control that they did not have last game. And what it really does for me, Taco, from where I'm looking, is it says no way this dive is happening again. If you're trying to barrel in on us and he drops the Fear No Evil, I mean, that cuts it off in its tracks.
It certainly does, but I'm looking more so towards that Morrigan. This actually might be one of Meerkat's more comfort picks, and
Right, number 1's Loki, then number 2 is Morrigan.
Loki number 2.
Right, and then you can just, it is very similar. Good point, actually.
Very,
in some ways,
very similar in a lot of ways. But Armada just has a lot of pincer possibilities as well with the Humbats and the Morrigan, lots of bead burners, and I'm mostly keeping an eye out for a possible double Fear No Evil or even Fear No Evil into the last breath. Keep in mind, Morrigan can also take the transformations from Hype Unit.
That's exactly right. So Hype Unit have to be careful what kind of stuff they're drafting, in that it might give too much value over to this Morrigan for Armada, so a lot for them to consider. As right now Armada plays, it feels like a bit more defensive with the Jormungandr bots, though the Morrigan does not feel defensive to me at all. That potentially screams some offense from Meerkat. He obviously wants this game more in the driver's seat from his position instead of the Poseidon, which really struggled last time. So we'll see if that can work as Janus banned away. A lot of respect to that comp Hype Unit ran in game 2.
A little bit baffled right now, Finch. I'm not gonna lie.
They didn't pick it?
I swear that looked like such a prime opportunity for Hype Unit to tank the Janus. I mean, you even have the through space and time and all those portals to generate the mobility necessary to create some distance to get away from the possibility of a double Fear No Evil combination, or even just the one out of whom bots and portals are also fairly effective against Jormungandr, because if World Serpent's going to follow you, well, he can't follow you all the way across the map.
That's a great point. So the through space and time not being valued by Hype Unit must mean they have something in the back pocket. Remember though, the Zeus has been getting banned away from the mid lane here from oBoronic, so maybe that's what the idea is. You get them to ban this Janus and you take Zeus instead. It's dangerous, he's so vulnerable, but it's something oBoronic loves to play. Maybe that's what we'll see come out here.
But the likelihood of Armada actually stacking up for that Lightning Storm, or even the Chain Lightning to be as effective, is what I have to question here, Finch.
Sure.
Zeus would definitely bring forth the power, though, and I think that Hype Unit could definitely use some burst. I am just a little concerned about the survivability of the god.
I would be too, man. I mean, we saw clearly that Hype Unit were able to punish Meerkat, and I don't even know if Poseidon's particularly immobile. Sure, he can't jump, but he's very fast with that second ability stem of his. So, I mean, if you pick something like Zeus that doesn't even have that much going for him, you might be in some trouble. But Hercules coming through for Hype Unit. Now we have some questions about where this is all going. Is this Hercules for Inbound and Serqet then for Layers?
I want to see Serqet for Layers, Hercules for Inbound.
Yeah.
Hercules support feels a lot better as far as setup is concerned, and as far as catering towards your mid laner is concerned. Serqet's got some peel in the toolkit early on, but it's nothing in comparison to Hercules, I think. It's interesting, though, to see Hype Unit still trying to remain aggressive.
That's exactly what they're going for, but I mean, I think that's what they should do. It worked for them in game number 2. It's clearly their identity, and look at Armada doubling down on the aggression themselves with this set. He can be a bit tough to contribute in team fights. Think of him a lot like maybe Kali or any other basic attack that likes to stick on one target and burn them down. That's what this set's going to be doing with a little bit of extra mobility from those sand clones. So maybe that can work if beads and stuff are forced out.
Possibly a set solo. Set solo is the only thing that really makes sense here, because Bots has got to be for Mask.
Oh, Morrigan ADC.
Morrigan ADC is more what I had in mind.
But
maybe set mid. Set mid.
Set mid, then okay, sure.
Set mid possibly.
If we think that one can work for him. It's a very interesting draft from Armada. I'm very excited to see where that's all going. New Wa comes in for Hype, so not the Zeus then at all, like what's been banned by Armada all set long. The new Wa, this does give them some ability to maybe reveal where the set's lurking, and the Morrigan as well, going into the ultimate, and some safety. Is that the idea, to pick someone safe?
Safe, but I don't know how safe you can really count on New Wall to be, because there is a lot of pressure both ways here, Finch, that I could definitely see either side getting the advantage here, but still having to lean a little bit more towards Armada for their composition. I just, even without the natural ADC, Morrigan ADC is not fun to deal with. She provides so much pressure in her laning phase that I think it's going to be really tough for oGryph. He might even need a lot of help, or maybe even some early gank opportunities out of Layers or Inbound. Something to get the ball rolling for Hype Unit's dual lane, because if everybody's left to their own devices, that is dangerous waters that they're playing in with Armada.
Yeah, we've seen Morrigan into Hachiman in particular, and she uses her base kit to force the ultimate, and then she turns into you and chases you down with your own ultimate, and is able to keep up with you even in mounted archery. So it can be quite potent into that matchup. Though oGryph has shown an ability to stand on his own two legs, and he has the right pick. Game number 3, though, the decider match. Let's get this back to Tom and Aggro.
Good. Thank you. I wanted it back. This was so exciting. Game number 2 was one of the better games we've seen. I know it's been a while since the phase number 1 of regular season, and this, of course, an exhibition tournament, but Wow, what a game. Split down the middle here in the decider match, as Finch said. Armada, the top of the SML. You can argue simplicity, but I think Armada has a lot of the talent. And Hype Unit, inarguably the top of the console world. The only console team to make it to day 2 aggro. Game number 1, it looked like they missed their alarm clock. Game number 2, they were the alarm clock, and they woke Armada up. Who's sleeping now?
We will find out. I don't know. I got a bunch of things I want to talk about, but let's start with where Inbowned is right now. Mask does not know, and this Serqet has great camp secure. Yeah, that's all Inbound. Nothing Mask can really do about that.
And Inbound gonna take the speed buff as well and keep following.
Yep.
This is interesting. This strat kind of abandoned by the Pro League teams. Inbound has done it here today and yesterday as well. Why is it still viable?
Because if you're not in practice and remember exactly what you're supposed to be doing, you might mess up. And if you mess up, you're in trouble. It's really what it comes down to. You're trading your most valuable farm on the enemy team. The jungler's XP in gold gain in the early game is the most important on the map.
Yep.
Supports are the least important. You trade your least important for their most important. It's a win. It's pretty simple math in that regard.
We'll go to the one that I want to talk about, the Herc jungle. One of my favorite oddball jungles.
Not
man.
the set ADC. No.
No.
We shelve that for sure. Herc jungle.
Herc jungle. He's got so much push. Right now it's going to be put to the test. Oboronic shading over from the mid lane to defend the blue buff. And that's a good adaptation that Hype Unit made from game number 1 and 2.
I like it. Yeah, look, Herc jungle certainly can work. He's got insane scaling on Driving Strike and Excavate.
And the ult.
Great control. Snoopy going in a little bit here on the Gryph with this set ADC. It is a risky trade, but it looks like he's losing it, and indeed he is. Gryph with the solo first blood.
And can we talk about that? Gryph, game number 1, had his tail between his legs, frightened, scared, timid. Game number 2, stepped up and took some fights that allowed him to open it up. Game number 3, kicks down the door. Well, to be fair, Snoopy kicked down the door and Gryph invited him in.
Yeah, that was not Snoopy's fight to take. Just a little bit too poked out towards the beginning. But honestly, that is what set ADC is going to do. He's going to just try it all in you every single wave. Skewer does dummy big numbers for poke damage. It's a great way to do it.
Speed buff invade number 2 here from Hype Unit, this time more than one player. The whole squad is here from both teams. This is going to be a kill, and it looks like Inbound, but he zigzags to the right side. Now SoloOrTroll trying to catch up with Layers, but can't either, as oBoronic finds a 2-man stun in those corridor. Beans are good to keep him alive, but the speed seems to be on Armada's side, and the mid lane mage will get jumped on. 1-to-1. Mask off of the assist from Solo and NotGeno.
And you know what? That was a sick play from Meerkat, because that was going to be a horrible start. A really good blink initiation from Inbound, pulls the beads out from Meerk, but he preps the one and then just turns and kind of waits. As soon as Layers blinks in, hits him with the Deadly Aspect stun, and that prevents him from getting one-shot by Driving Strike, which was a real threat.
Yeah, that was we saw both teams, kind of really nail what they were trying to do there. With the Nuwa, which is an interesting choice from oBoronic, kind of his second shelf, as everything else was banned or taken, and we'll discuss probably after the lack of the Janus pick in the top 3. But they want to fight in those jungle corners because of the way of that ultimate, because of the way the minion explosions work, and that's what Hype Unit did. Armada was able to punish them successfully, but both teams kind of did what their composition wants to do. So it's a nice little kind of prologue to this match in general.
Absolutely, it's a pick for oBoronic that peels for itself well. We talk about it all the time, but it's fairly safe in that once you hit level 5, you can get out of danger, but it doesn't have that ability to help Layers on the dive. And that's where I think this comp might fall apart. They're trying to do the exact same sort of thing. Long-range damage from the mid lane in a warrior with blink that can dive in the jungle. But it's just different this time. Herc doesn't have that same chase potential that Guan Yu has. Doesn't have that same mobility. Oboronic can't get you out of danger. He can only help you deal extra damage, but that's not what the Janus was always there for. It was there for both ends.
Mid lane, the mid laner's getting jumped on. Meerkat turns around. Layers misses the flip, but here comes Bobby, and he'll walk away. Meerkat survives for now. But as always, when you talk about the Nuwa, a little bit later could be different. Nuwa doesn't survive. Layers pushes Snoopy under the tower. Not going to be good enough, though. So Armada make a play in the mid lane. Something to think about here. Herc jungle is effective early. Driving Strike just does what it needs to do, but the Nuwa not so much. So this is a little bit of column game 1 and a little bit of column game 2. Where game 1 was way too late for Hype Unit, both mid and jungle, and they couldn't make an impact. Game 2, both of them had this early game, this early mid-game kind of prowess. Here, it's going to be interesting if Hype Unit can extend the game long enough for the Nuwa to make herself relevant.
In some trouble here. Good dash in from Gryph. He gets the kill, but may end up paying for it. Good transformation from Meerkat. Gets the kill onto Gryph. Inbound, very low. Snoopy's already used the Sandstorm. No blink for him, but Skewer might be enough.
Nope.
Off the mark, but the monkey bounce is solid. Looks to me like Mask is actually going with the maxing of the Furious Monkey and not the overhand smash. We've seen some players start to experiment with this after the change to Hun Batz to give him that extra monkey bounce, and yeah, indeed he is. I think this is the right way to go right now. I really do. I mean, it's a longer cooldown. The overhand smash does go down to like 10 or 9 seconds, but it's so much more camp clear.
It also changes the very mindset of the character as SOT gets walked down. Nice toss of the ball, but looked like a little bit of miscommunication there. Wolves doesn't continue the fight. Geno gonna shade over from the left side. Driving Strike is good on a Mask. The jump is strong, but the last breath will do it. And a nice kill from Inbound as Hype Unit clings on. Tie game one more time. I got a feeling we're gonna have one of those games.
Certainly a possibility. Look at that damage from Skewer. Gryph is dead. He's got no ultimate. That's what set ADC does to you, man. He just walks you down. Skewer damage is absurd on this character. And even with Snoopy taking that early death, he invaded a red buff that Gryph wasn't there for, rotated into mid, got a couple kills there, and is now just really relying on this absurd damage that his 1 and 2 do together.
Inbound surrounded, Terra popped, and Inbound will go down to the hand of technically Geno. Meerkat was the one to land the damage. Armada doubling Hype Unit's 3 kills, but the gold's very, very close. An easy invade for Armada on the enemy red buff. And so a nice look. Snoopy on the weird carry choice. Name a more iconic duo.
Have you said that before, you think?
I think I did 5 years ago, bringing out Mercury, Vulcan, and Set is a weird character in and of himself. Very high skill cap. Does things like that. And the new still tickling. But Set, carry, like I said, a weird character in his own right. We've seen very few junglers select him. But to see Snoopy pick him up, I didn't even bat an eye, man.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, I think, for his sort of play style. And like I said in game 1, this is what Armada likes to do. Give Snoopy a pressure pick, leave him on the island, let him try and solo you, and if you're not going to engage with him, you're not going to fight with him, then you're going to end up losing your purple a million times.
See that monkey bounce?
Yeah, it does a lot of damage.
Ouch.
And here's why I think it's good in particular, is that you're not really killing that many people with Hun Batz without a full duration Fear No Evil.
Or a teammate.
Right. So it doesn't really matter that you, like, the lack of damage doesn't really hurt you. And I don't even know that it is real lack of damage most of the time. It's a longer cooldown, sure, but it's more confirmable. It's faster. It's long range. It's good poke.
That's the key.
It ups your clear. Though it is longer cooldown, so you don't get to overhand smash. You know, your overhand smash is up, but it's not doing as much damage, and it's not up as often because it scales down in cooldown. I don't know. I think Hun Batz is in a really strong spot, and I think you can go either way, but I think maxing Monkey is a little bit better right now.
You said 2 things there that really got me excited. Long range and poke, as Inbound gets chunked.
And that's before he has trans, man.
Yeah, that's scary. And that's really what, I mean, Hun Batz doesn't do that. I was talking about this when we saw the solo lane dive. You're changing the mindset of the character. Hun Batz is an all-in, must-have ultimate up. Now you can toss your monkey and bring the mid laner down from 100 to 80%. Come back 20 seconds later, do it again, and then do it a 3rd time and kill. That's absolutely not something Hun Batz can do, maxing the 2 instead of the 3. And so to see the turnaround, pretty nice here from Mask.
Another grouping on the enemy purple. There's a good rotation in from Layers. He may find speed here if he decides to check it. He'll certainly find the backs. Looks like he won't try and take his chances on the speed buff.
Nice try from Inbound. Looking for the throwing stars. I talk a lot about the metagame. You cannot be number one if you simply follow the meta. Innovation at this level of Smite play is absolutely important. What we saw in game number 2 was Hype Unit able to kind of play Smite game as well as Armada. Now Hype Unit have their second test. They've passed 101. It's now 102 time, and Armada are bringing out the innovation, the change to the Hun Batz, the set ADC. These are Armada's afraid of losing. Afraid is probably a big word, but Armada knows that this is a real game that they have to play. Not to say that they were outright disrespecting Hype Unit, but this is a much different Armada than we saw games 1 and 2. And that innovation, like I said, is how you lead. It's up to Hype Unit to catch up.
Yeah, I mean, talking to Snoopy before this event, he was saying that he definitely had something he wanted to play in dual lane that was a little bit off. So this set pick does make some sense, I think.
It is practiced for sure. I mean, Set's a character, like I said, Set's a character that junglers don't really get all that yet. Having your clone back on the tower to be able to, and that's the second time we've seen him confirm the jump onto the clone as Wolves avoids SOT. Can he avoid? No, he can't avoid that one.
Did Wolves not have boots there? I'm a little surprised he got hit by that so easily. No, he definitely had boots in that position. Surprised that most of the time you can dodge that.
Beads at a Snoopy. That's a nice look there. Jumps over the wall looking, but it's 2 versus 1. Griff gonna find the slow. Mask on the way as well. New off in the mid lane does some damage. Snoopy goes down to inbound, and there's the ball over the wall, but it's Meerkat that takes care of inbound one more time. It's 1 for 1 with Wolves dying in that other engagement on the other side. So a smooth 1,000 gold lead for Armada. Hype Unit still hanging, but the innovation seems to be a little bit interesting. And a curveball that Hype Unit probably wasn't expecting.
Well, it also just, I mean, they haven't done what they did in game 2, which is just invade red over and over again, invade purple over and over again. I mean, it's after a long game like that, sometimes you can kind of forget how you got there in the first place. And they're leaving Griff on an island for the most part. He's down 2 levels. He soloed Snoopy for first blood, and he's still down by that much. It's because Armada's remembering their game plan, and I don't really think that Hype Unit's remembering theirs.
That's a tall task. Certainly, and again, you know, the adaptation. I'm expecting Hype Unit to kind of figure out how to deal with Snoopy in a little bit, but right now, I don't think they know how. Aggro.
I mean, sending inbound over and having him all in to kill him is a start. It's definitely it's better than just letting him do whatever he wants.
If you're Coach Aggro, what are you telling Hype Unit right now?
Probably. I mean, you should just be going to kill him again. He's got no relics, and he doesn't. I mean, he's got mobility, but no CC immediately in the case. So.
Well, Geno's in trouble. 3 players surrounding him, but he still has the double dash, and he's able to get out. That's insane. Nua, still not powerful enough just yet. Divine Ruin into the blue boots. Not exactly the highest damaging composition just yet, but keeping Geno's healing in mind, etc. Again, Nua shooting for the late game. Wolves pressuring out Meerkat, but being pressured out himself, and the Fear No Evil. That's a huge win for Hype Unit. And they're going to defend their red buff for the first time. You mentioned that Hype Unit wasn't offensively looking for the enemy red buff. Well, they haven't found their own either. It's been Armada that's on the red buff invade this time.
Yeah, better for sure. I mean, it's you want to be getting those buffs instead of just outright losing them, but I mean, they've already missed their window to start invading reds. They're behind on the left side of the map. I mean, Mask is a little bit ahead. Snoopy's still 2 levels up. Now, even when Griff is getting red buffs and purple buffs, he has to split them a whole lot. And even if you're getting reds, are you getting your purples consistently? This is going to be the first purple that Griff has gotten, I think, in quite some time. And it's less about the actual buff overall, but more about just the golden experience that it provides.
I mean, like you said, big difference between Snoopy and Griff. That's fun.
That's really cool.
Set's such an interesting character. And again, the question mark, I think, is really big. Inbound, trying to dash away from Geno. A light engagement here. Snoopy saying, if I have the option, I'll go in. And again, the peppering of the clones. He understands what he's doing here. It's fun to watch. Transcendence done. Jotun's done.
So now he's capped on CDR. So his skewer's already an incredibly short cooldown.
Yep.
Now he gets to use it all the time.
Red buff invade coming out from Hype Unit. The Mask is here to stop that. Inbound dashes away, and still has to blink away. SoloOrTroll waiting for him in the mid lane as Mask chases down the mid lane mage, but oBoronic able to find a way out Layers, on the other hand, big damage from Mask. Here comes Geno, but he's able to wiggle out, and the monkey will miss, and that's a big deal. Gryph on the horns, can he escape Snoopy? Not so fast. The clone catches up, and now Snoopy behind enemy lines trying to deal with Wolves, but Meerkat behind him with a stun. One versus the world, and Wolves has to get out of there. Gold Fury open.
Need to see a little bit more team communication, though, from Armada. That was a very split fight, and to only get one from such a great start seems a little bit too light to me on the return on that investment. Particularly on the Layers. I mean, Layers is a free kill at that point. Mask hits a full duration Fear No Evil on him on a character that has no beads. I get it's Hercules, but he has the anti-heal, and he was already weak enough. But no one turned to help Mask and get that kill. Just seems like everyone's playing a little bit too individual right now on Armada, and that's a good way to not get very far in a tournament.
And to be fair, you know, it's important to realize Armada not a pro league team. There are plenty of teams that are above them, despite how completely dominant they may seem in their own sort of arena. And when you're just consistently winning, there are bad habits that can come from that. But also, I mean, this is a team that can just, you know, Meerkat could just like focus real hard and kind of win a game. Everybody can on this team. And it might be their Achilles heel here, but not for Snoopy. He'll take the 1 versus 2 and pick one up. And Gryph is in trouble as well. And Snoopy gets the double kill. I will say assisted by Geno, but not much.
That character is sweet, man. And again, Snoopy just, as soon as he sees Inbound use both instances of mobility, he goes, oh, you're dead. And it looks, Inbound's probably like, what is this guy doing? I mean, there's clearly just an unfamiliarity with what that character is capable of.
Toss the ball. Goes for it. Oh,
good reset.
Beautiful reset by Armada. Layers is chased out. Mask might even kill him, and the Gold Fury goes the way of Armada. That's a dozen for the minor league team. 5,400 in the lead at just shy of 17 minutes.
This is much more the Armada that they've been all year. I mean, Snoopy gets big. Meerkat's able to rotate around and impact the map at a little bit of a slower pace than what we saw him have to play at last game. Mask is able to get his farm where necessary and really find good fights to take. Geno seems to be in the right spot consistently. This is what Armada did to a lot of teams, and I'm a little surprised that it took a beating like they took in Game 2 to really return to form.
I am surprised as well, but I think the difference is that Hype Unit in game number 2 just matched their level of play, and it required this innovation. You know, we see the Meerkat on the Morrigan, the Snoopy on the set. They needed that extra gear for sure. If Armada kept trying to hide these strats for later on in the tournament, good chance they don't make it to later on in the tournament. So, Hype Unit now playing catch up as far as strategy level is concerned. Wolves jumps over the wall, and that's a good one. But Armada are doing whatever they want. Mid lane is theirs. The tier 1 tower, Hype Unit haven't even hidden on it. They're on the tier 2. Wolves gets snooped. 6-2-3 for the Canadian carry as he dings up a baker's dozen for his team here in the early stages. 18 minutes in. This is a little bit earlier than what we saw dominance in game number 2 from Hype Unit. Took them a long time to get their footing. But the frenzy's popped, Ryan, and the fire giant is melting.
Yeah, this set is going to do a lot of damage in this sort of instance. No way Hype Unit can get anywhere close. Beautifully done. We've seen so many pro teams do it. Support hits 12. We win a team fight. I already have frenzy. Go straight to fire. Hype Unit. I can't even say caught off guard or caught flat-footed because there's nothing they could have done to stop.
This is tough because you're watching Hype Unit right now, just looking at the set. I mean, this was really, and break it down a little bit. You're intimately, you know this assassin. Is it really just the fact that Snoopy is so mobile with the clones that is keeping everybody kind of whirlwinded?
Yeah, it's the fact that he can just kind of, so you walk at them and you skewer them, does 30% of their health. Then they have to run away because you're walking at them. And then you clone again and jump to it, and they're dead. It's hard to deal with, for sure. You need to have matchup knowledge. You need to know where you can go in and where you can't.
Inbound against Fear No Evil. Likely falling here, yes. That's Mask off the assist from the entire team. Snoopy going deep by himself. oBoronic loses 30% from the skewer. There's another 30% And there's
400 and auto, by the way.
the last third. Snoopy eating Boronic. 0-3-1 for the Nuwa in the mid lane. I don't know if it'd be different with a different mid lane choice, but the Nuwa just, the problem for me in game number 1 was Boronic wasn't able to impact the game because it wasn't his turn. And game number 3, Boronic is sitting there waiting his turn and just can't do it.
I completely agree with you. I just don't like the way that Hype Unit drafted, particularly. I just can't imagine having a game like Boronic had and not demanding Janus top 3.
Mid lane is going to be the push, and Wolves already in trouble. Mask drops the hammer, and Wolves certainly tastes his mortality. Mid lane Bird will fall down easy for Armada, and they'll fall back from that one. Left side tower should be the target, and this 10,000 gold plus in the lead for the minor league squad.
And look, there's something to be said for, well, I just played so well on this pick, I'm in the zone, I'll play well on whatever, so let's get everyone else comfortable, and I will just continue to roll. But at the same time, no other character does what Janus can do for your team comp, or just as a character base. And I still think it's Boronic's best character.
Yep.
And Janus in particular is so rhythm-based, right? I mean, you have to really get a feel for how the enemy team is moving. He clearly was reading what Meerkat and Snoopy wanted to do in these team fights.
Yeah.
If you want to be invading red buffs consistently, then you got to be able to get there, and Nuwa just doesn't get there very easily. Physically, doesn't get to move there without getting in some danger. The way it feels to me, Tom, and this is going to be a very deep-cut Magic reference.
I'm here.
Armada's playing something super unfair, right?
All right.
Like
Dredge. Shout out to Jeff Hindley.
Right. Hype Unit got their Graveyard Hate game 2, and then kept like a medium 7 game 3, where they could have mulliganed to try and you can't just spin your wheels and play your game plan when the enemy's playing unfair. You have to keep an appropriate hand in that situation. I just don't think Hype Unit did.
Exactly. To translate, Hype Unit had the opportunity to give themselves the answers and chose not to select it. Griff has been the shakiest player on the battlefield, I think, for Hype Unit, and so to ensure that it is the Hachiman, which we were talking about at great length, how safe and how important it is, right? To ensure the Hachiman for Griff, I think, is the conversation there, because it was Hachiman in the third slot instead of the Janus. And that's the conversation you have right there, right? That's the conversation you're having with your coach and your team, and it's, do we make Griff safe and comfortable, or do we feed the hot hand and give the Janus back? And I think 20 times out of 10, you feed the hot hand and you give the Janus back. Like you said, I loved how you said rhythm, flow. You feel yourself unstable, portal out, portal in, unstable, threshold, unstable. Nuwa's the opposite. Ka-chunk, ka-chunk. It feels like you're trying to robot your way through the team fights instead of moonwalk. And it's a different feel, it's a different look. And forget all that, Boronic hasn't even gotten a chance to prove himself because Nuwa's not the character that makes the impact with the portals or the thresholds. I would have liked to see any other character. Janus first and foremost, like we've said. I think Hype Unit kind of shot themselves in the foot here. Really rough stuff.
And now, I mean,
come on, Plaxico.
The good news, former Steeler. The good news is that Armada doesn't have a traditional hunter, so maybe they'll have trouble sieging.
Disagrees. Set is an assassin, that does that well.
Yes, but he's got to be in melee range
to
hit the Phoenix. And
absolutely.
That can cause problems. That being said, Armada already has 2 Phoenixes down and are in complete control.
Yes. It's going to take a lot for Hype Unit to kind of claw their way out of this basement. Layers has a build to allow himself to pester this enemy team. They're down 15k. Layers is equipped to kind of get involved. He will kind of still get beat up by Snoopy and Mask, but can have an impact. Nuwa Vision. Fire Giant, no secret. Wolves is here on the outskirts. Inbound looking for the down play, but everybody knows where he is. SOT goes into the secret. But Mask chases down the support. Miss jump. There's the ultimate. There's the ultimate. There's the shot. And Mask takes care of Inbound relatively simply. Geno, Snoopy, Solo still have their ults. Wolves jumps away. Should be a retreat from Hype Unit.
I don't know if Snoopy's going to let them. He's got a great angle to this. Meerkat as well. Bumba's Batz zooming in the jungle.
Ramsey.
Finds Griff easily. And Geno and SoloOrTroll take care of the enemy.
Geno working overtime here. And oBoronic not even clocking in. Mid lane Phoenix goes down. And it is a very bad look. All Phoenixes are endangered here. And the Titan getting sieged. 25 minutes of play. Hype Unit bring it in game number 2. But Armada reminds them it's already been brought. Armada moving on. Hype Unit will stay seated.
9-2-7 for Snoopy's set. A pick that clearly Hype Unit just wasn't prepared for. You saw some lack of matchup knowledge there by Griff. I mean, he ulted at right at level 5 thinking Snoopy, oh, he just uses clone. He gets 2 of those. And was able to just easily jump away from that. Really got bullied heavily. But again, I don't think the draft was that good from Hype Unit. I think they messed up a little bit there. I think the way they played the map wasn't ideal. They showed themselves the answers in game 2 and then went back to playing the same way they did in game 1.
Yeah.
In the determining game. It just, I don't know. Maybe that's lack of experience. I doubt it. They've had a lot of LAN experience. I just think that it wasn't their day.
I think that innovation from Armada absolutely threw them, Hype Unit, for a loop. We saw Hype Unit, they can contend. I think, hell, if you're a pro league team out there and you've got a bad mid laner or something's going on, I think oBoronic has woken up a lot of PC fans. I think Layers woke up a lot of PC fans as well. These guys made a statement. They won't be moving on, but I think a lot of people know these names that didn't yesterday, and that's a big point. Armada, they will continue, and we'll see them play later as well. But first, we'll break down this set.
Maybe the fairy tale for Hype Unit has come to an end, but Armada are the ones who are wearing the glass slipper at the end of the day. They brought down the boot just now on Hype Unit in a very dominant game number 3, Taco. And you heard them talking about all the differences here in this game and what might be the big things that shifted, but it really felt like Armada just kind of shifted into that extra gear that maybe Hype Unit just didn't have.
Yeah, it started off kind of spicy. I'm not going to lie, though, for Hype Unit. I mean, Griff finds that solo kill against Snoopy, but I'll admit, and I think Snoopy would too, he might have set him up himself for that one. Might as well just presented himself on a silver platter to Griff there.
Sure.
But all in all, Hype Unit just did not really seem to know how or when to try and respond to Armada. We saw that early attempt towards speed buff aggression against Mask, and I feel like that's kind of where things started slipping for Hype Unit. It was still relatively early on. Everybody's sitting level 3, 4, no one at 5 just yet, but it was just too much of an overextension from Hype Unit, and New Wall just doesn't have the power or the burst necessary, I think, for that invade to have gone successfully.
And that was the back end of that invade that did not work out, where oBoronic ended up getting chased down. Snoopy had Griff's number here in the 1v1. You mentioned that first blood, which did go Griff's way, but aside from that, Snoopy was dominant in this long lane over here up against Griff, and I'm assuming my man's gonna have a field day of those clips here playing back and forth, so it really made life hard for him. But I do think there's a couple areas where we can give Hype Unit a little bit more credit than we have been. I don't think they came in lost without a game plan. I think they had one, which is to play just like they did in game 2 with this snowballing pressure, and it was gonna be around the speed buff. That first invade from Inbound actually went well, where he was able to catch Mask a little bit off guard, and they had the timer and the wards. It just didn't work. They tried to go for that pressure and continually got shut down.
Well, the adjustments also have the Bots made a really big difference as well for Mask, because it shut down Inbound. That one of the last clips we just saw actually was a great example where anytime Inbound would look for that last breath onto a target, even if it was a prime candidate, it still didn't really make that much of a difference because he was immediately being met with a Fear No Evil, and that type of CC is hard to break away from or to survive the damage burst that's being put against you throughout. And ultimately, there just wasn't really a whole lot of wiggle room for Inbound to work with this game.
And don't forget, SoloOrTroll was able to get the solo kill that game over Wolves, and that mitigated a lot of his rotations he made that in game 2 were so strong. But here is your bracket. Hype Unit move on to the finals of our play-ins. That means they are already guaranteed to be moving on into the MSI bracket. The only question is, will they be playing up against a rival or Dignitas, the 1A and 1B there? So I don't know which one's much better for you in that situation. And we also, of course, obviously have the second semifinal, Sanguine and Simplicity be coming up. But I mean, I don't know. I'm not done talking about this Game 3 yet. I think that Hype Unit did get a little bit lost in the weeds there in the picks and bans and the actual gameplay, but we really saw some great stuff for them. I'm still impressed with every bit that they showed us here this week.
And this team, we've been saying it for quite some time now. This team has a lot of potential, and I'm really excited to see what they use this line experience for in the future.
I'm excited too, man. I think the future for this team is absolutely bright. Based on what we saw here, I have really high expectations for Hype Unit going forward, Taco. But again, the people of the hour are Armada. They had a huge win just now. They will be moving on to the finals and obviously into the actual MSI bracket as well. They're standing by right now for the interview.
All right, guys, congratulations on your win. Is that more than you expected? I mean, Hype Unit looked great in Game 2.
Yeah, we didn't really expect the Game 2, run it down, whatever you want to call it, especially myself and Snoopy, I would say. We're not expecting that. They played the early game well. They played their comps well, definitely.
Game number 3, you guys brought out some interesting strategies, right? The set in the hands of Snoopy, some other interesting things. Was that something that you were planning on playing today, or is that something that you kind of want to keep up your sleeve but were forced to?
We just practiced with it, and then we were like, oh, it's probably good here because they're a really high-pressure team, so the highest pressure in duo is just running an assassin and running at them, so that's what we did.
What have you seen from your own team internally? Because you guys have said coming into this that you didn't get a whole lot of practice during the regular season. You were just kind of getting onto form. Mask, you joined this team fairly recently. Do you guys think that you've continued to improve, or do you think that today was a bit of concern moving into tomorrow?
Yeah, I think we generally continued to improve. I mean, today was just like we went against a comp that we weren't expecting, and we took a dumb fight and there was some poor actives. But I mean, the game after that I thought was pretty clean by us, and the first game was really clean. So I think generally we've continued to improve. There was just some comps that we hadn't quite seen before, and some plays that we had a few mistakes. And in a comp like that, when they get ahead, especially against the carries, you just get extremely punished. So
Earlier today, you said that you'd rather play against Sanguine. If you do wind up against Simplicity, what's that matchup like for you?
Mask answers.
Sanguine. Sanguine is probably easier to play against, but Simplicity is just like a more, like it's like a more of a team. Like they're better in my opinion, like almost everything. They also have like some old pros on it, so they're definitely way scarier. But I think we played them in scrims, even though they had really high ping, and it was pretty. It's pretty one-sided. But I think I don't know. I think they're insane, so it's going to be really hard.
Definitely really good players.
Yeah,
For sure. Hey, credit to you guys, and I want to celebrate you. But you're the last people that have played against Hype, the only console team that made it to day number 2. So honestly, what's your litmus test? Are they the real deal? What's your take on the console kids?
All of them besides Hype, I thought were pretty poor, honestly.
But Hype specifically?
Hype's all right. I mean, they seem really one-dimensional in their comps. They seem to almost only win on early game pressure, and they have a lot of problem closing out games. But if they played some more and they started learning how to close out games better and stuff like that, I think they could be a pretty good team. But as of right now, I think they're kind of easily beat if you just pick pressure into them.
Awesome, man. Well, you certainly did it. 2 games over 1. Congratulations, Meerkat, and, of course, Mask. As for you guys, we'll catch you after the break.